this live event will begin in minutes.
I just pushed start just a second ago. Just in case that gets me kicked off too.
All right. You get things.
All of a sudden, shh, quiet.
We're gonna get excommunicated. Like hotline bling, bad version.
Make sure before you send it that it works, though, is my thing.
Right now.
Okay. Are you on your phone?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, attempt from Beth live.
Can you hear me? Only if you promise that I'm going to get it back.
After talk.
Oh, okay. And you can just sign in from mine
Yeah.
to do it for the. Oh, okay. Just making sure, because I need my computer.
We are up.
All right, hold on. I'm opening the handouts, and then Jeff, I'm gonna keep open the handouts, like in case you need to screenshot them, and I'll.
Oh, almost lost it. Coffee smells good now. Coffee smells good.
Hey, we got the coffee machine. None of you are in my office. Never mind. We got the coffee machine up and running in my office, and I was really excited about it.
I'm gonna have my own coffee maker in my
Do it. Totally worth the investment.
Okay.
So,
And you know what?
Oh, hold on.
Oh,
We good. We good. David Vargas says we good.
Hey.
so
David Vargas.
one-time code, and then
That's
whatever.
when you're up.
Oh, you're not gonna use it at all?
Not now.
Okay, you need a document from here.
Okay. Can we have an emoticon round of applause for Beth Shishmanian? Emoticon round of applause. Emoticon it. Come on. Emoticon. Everyone, emoticon.
I can't see that because I'm not part of that group. So.
But it's the energy.
Can everyone please emoticon? Beth, thank you.
What's the emoticon?
There it is. There's Anthony Blake.
There it is.
There it is.
Now that actually looks intense. That's
really
it's pretty cool.
There we go. There we go. There's Dorcas. There's Graceful as. Come on, everyone. One time now. There's John.
Man.
There's Thanks Beth. What is that? Is that nail polish? Luke Masick with the nail polish.
Okay.
Keep it coming. Actually, there is a new app or program called Periscope,
Oh,
which
yeah.
apparently is very. There's Beth is Queen. Hashtag Kayla Craw with 3 in a row.
We got Dwayne-
Sonny Mark got it. Dwayne Dennis with the United Colors of Benetton. Oscar Parada with 4. Ashley Rosa with way too many. This is awesome. Anthony Blake with a Hail Caesar. Like, whoop, whoop. This is great. Okay.
Man.
Okay. So you've got the joinme.com. It's the 336. The 336 number. It's 9-digit code. Feel free to follow along. We're going to dive right in, everybody. And I just wanted to say thank you. All right, is that everyone? Okay.
It's like, please stop about it.
Okay, no, I asked for it. Okay.
Please.
So we're focused. Thank you. Yeah, what a mess this morning, even not just this technical difficulties. So ironically enough, I just have to share this, and I'm really not trying to go the religious route, but it's really so applicable. If you are Catholic, you know that today is a specific, or this time of season is called Lent. And Lent, if you're not Catholic, you might know of Lent. It's the time when Catholics kill themselves and they give something up. Okay, that's like the not accurate, not so positive spin on Lent, right? You give up chocolate, or you give up drinking, whatever it might be. I'm not giving up either. Okay. More so, it's a time of reflection. It's more so a time to create a better connection with your faith, and it's more so a time to create discipline. And there's multiple things, and we can go there. We don't have to. But one of the things I partake in, I was given a book and a video series from Matthew Kelly. Some of you may know him as an author. And Matthew Kelly gives these daily videos to all us Catholics. And there's a free book that he's willing to give out for free. Just pay for shipping. And the book was given to me by a fellow Vector, very high up region manager / Catholic. He said, read it. And the first story talks about this really wealthy businessman who's doing great. Can't wait to get home from New York City. Just walks out the door. He closed the deal with his team. biggest move for the company. Walks and they're running to the cab because their flight's in about an hour and a half, 2 hours, and he can't wait to get home to his wife and kids back across the country to explain what happened, to talk to his wife and celebrate. And he's running with his team, and there's a taxi in sight, and next thing you know, inadvertently, some of his team members knock over this fruit produce stand, and fruit knocks all over the place. And he stops and goes to pick it up, and his friends didn't notice what had happened, and they went into the car and said, "Come on, Jim, let's go, we're gonna be late, we have to go, we're gonna miss the flight." He looked at his friends, looked at the fruit, and he looked at this young lady, blind lady, produce stand owner, sobbing. He said, "Go on without me." So he picks up the fruit, puts it back. He noticed that some of it's damaged. He pulls out some money. He said, "Hey, this should take care." She's sobbing. He goes, "It's okay, it's okay." He goes, "Don't worry, I'm not gonna leave it. I'll fix it." He gives her money. "I hope this covers." And then she says, "Sir, are you Jesus?" And he goes, "I'm sorry." He goes, "Are you Jesus?" "I'm sorry, what do you mean?" He said, "Well, when my stand got knocked over, I knew that it was going to be a problem, and I'm blind, and I knew I was going to have a hard time, and I prayed for Jesus to come help me." The businessman said, "No, thank you." He went home. Clearly, he missed his flight, and because it was a Friday night, he wasn't going to get a flight layover until over the weekend. So he was stuck in New York City, and he sat and reflected in his room, sobbing, crying, thinking, man, that very profound question and how he acted. So, take it for what it's worth. So parallel that to this morning. I'm all ready to go. I'm texting Beth. I'm on my way. I'm ready to roll. And I felt like the guy in the produce stand today in Starbucks. Same situation. I'm not going to go into the detail. And I said, I'm going to be late for my prep, or I'm going to be Jesus right now. I better be Jesus right now. So I was Jesus this morning. We didn't get up on time. I apologize. But, man, Jesus, I felt good. So I said it not in vain, but in a nice way. Okay. Welcome. Do me a favor. Just to save some time, I'm actually going to skip. I loaded up a shorter version of my opening comments. Some of this was shared at our DM staff meeting virtually last week, and some of it wasn't. So if you allow me the time to share a few thoughts. First thought, I'll say, has to do with your schedule. When your values align, John Roman, a friend of mine, said, when your values align, your schedule becomes very clear. When your priorities align, your schedule becomes very clear. So my question to you is, are you focused on what's really important? If you know that this is important, does your schedule reflect that, or does your schedule reflect watching team meetings, or I really love these growth videos, and I'm all about growth videos, but there's a time and a place. But now that we're on the cusp of the summer, does your schedule reflect that? Hey, I really want to be organized. Does your schedule reflect that? I had a conversation with a fellow AGL member. I said, "So how organized are you?" I said, "Great. When was the last time you did Power Hour?" 2 weeks ago. Well, the schedule doesn't line up with wanting to be, in this case, organized. Hey, I'm really looking to get fit. I really should get into the gym. When was the last time you got into the gym? Before Christmas. Okay, so this is both personal and business. And if it's a priority, many people often say, "Oh, I just don't have the time." Who's heard that before? Okay. Well, if you would rewire it, it's not, "I don't have the time." More so, it's not a priority. Right? Those are the things that we should do, and they're the things that we have to do. And the things that we have to do, we find, we create, and there is time for the things we have to do. Passively, breathe. Passively, heartbeat, blood flow. Kind of passively and actively, eat. You don't have to eat, but you actively eat because it's a have to. Why? Because it'll hurt and eventually it will kill you. In this case, vitality, if you will. So is this a priority for your schedule? I showed this to our district manager team, and this is an example of just personal values. These are 377 different values that you can narrow down in an exercise to get it to half, and then get that 150 to 170 down to about 80, and then get that 80 down to 40, the 20, the 10, and the focus is to get it to your top 5 or 6. Right? And this is not my, let me share. This is just an open sheet, and I encourage you to do this. At some point, I don't know that this is definitely a priority to this weekend or urgent to the hour, but it's certainly urgent to your life, I believe. And keep in mind, as you get older and older and older, you start to become more and more secure with who and what you're about. And it comes to time. It's like wine. It's like opening up that bottle of wine, and as it airs out, it opens up the wine, and I think your values start to open up. But when you really find what's important to you, it's really easy to have your schedule aligned. It's really easy to act a certain way. And this is my board, I'll call it, my values board. And every picture represents something, one of my 6 values, whether it's legacy, whether it's humility. One stands for respect, one stands for energy, one stands for love, one stands for loyalty, and the one in the middle stands for faith. And it's taken years, and this may adjust, but for the most part, pretty much this is spot on what I value. And any sheet that you've seen of how to work with me, all those line up with one of these 6. And anytime I've made a decision that's really the best version and feels like the best version to me, it's lined up with one of these 6. Anytime I've gone against the grain, I didn't feel good, I wasn't the best Jeff, it went against these 6. So I use that from a personal standpoint, but also from a business standpoint. When you really line up with what's important, I speak to friends all the time. Advice, Jeff, on dating, you seem really happy with hiding. I said, know who you are, know who you're not, and roll with that. That's the same concept, right? They're the 3 must-haves, and I always said this, in this case with dating, it was I need someone who's kind, classy, right, and smart. Kind, classy, and smart. The other attributes of a partner, a life partner, are insignificant to me, but as long as I have someone who's kind, classy, and smart, and those things line up in some way, shape, or form in some of these. So I encourage you to find out, what are you about? This is a message I gave to our division manager team in October at our national SLC conference. I talked about the importance of pilot leadership. I bring this up because several of you are playing a role in the pilot this summer. Several of you at some point will play a role in the pilot in future campaigns. And some of you will never play a role in the pilot. So if you are not part of the pilot, this message is to share with you that the pilot is the priority this summer. The pilot is going to get my #1 priority and the division #2, because so goes the pilot, so goes the leadership, so goes the program, so goes the beacon of light, of hope, if you will. If you're part of the pilot, it's just all that more important, from an Allie as a lead assistant, right, to Daniel, who's currently the PSM, to anyone that comes through the pilot, that's going to be a priority. And it's really, really important that you understand that, so that when it comes down to a decision and comes down to a communication, when it comes down to a call that might not be returned right away, removing personal, understanding, okay, what's objective and what's really important for the division. It's the importance of the pilot. Keep that in mind. We spoke about in the fall the edge to our district managers. The edge is what edge you'll get for your summer performance based on how you grow in the fall. And I think it'd be really worth it to evaluate what was your growth curve from September 1st until Big Dance, which was right after Christmas. And the amount that you grew, the amount that you move things forward will pay very big dividends and returns in the summer. If it was very little, you'll get very little return. So I think the first thing is awareness and being really real with yourself. It might be worth one of our one-on-one calls, if that's something we have set up, to say, hey, Jeff, I want to talk to you about my fall, and scale of 1 to 10, do you think I moved myself, and did I get that edge? And I will tell you, it is 10, 80, 10. Like anything. 10% made no movement. In fact, I think regressed. 80% made some moves, and 10% of you really moved yourself. And you're going to see the edge, not now, you're going to see the edge probably end of May into June when things start rolling. And you will see who worked in the fall and who did not and who did in between. But the thing I want to share is that despite, and this is an example, a funny story, despite things that will happen, there is another time frame. It's not the edge, right? From now until the summer, there is no edge. The edge period is over. The edge to move, like to really exponentially move the business. But what is not over is insurance time. This time is insurance time. What can you for sure lock down to make sure, all right, well, I didn't hit the edge, or I hit the edge, but from now until April 15th, April 16th, we're in Jacksonville. What did I do to ensure, right? I might not have jumped it, but how do I ensure it doesn't go lower than whatever I'm already set up for? Because without any disrespect to anyone, and no names affiliated at all, doesn't need to be, the die is kind of cast already. What does that mean? When the die is cast?
I mean, it's already, yeah, it's already there.
It's kind of like I already know who's going where by August 31st. I kind of already know everyone's CPO in my head. Okay. Now, will that change? Sure. Will that change? Certainly. Can that change? Yes, absolutely. But for the most part, we kind of know the trajectory anyway. Trajectory. Yeah. So the angle. You can certainly force the angle to move, but folks, I got to tell you, it's about what insurance can you create. So what are insurance policies right now? Insurance policies are things that have to do with recruiting. Insurance policies have to do with getting your finances in order. Insurance policies have to do with Facebook, building up your army of Facebook networks. Insurance policy has to do with buttoning up that interview and getting yourself buttoned up. So yeah, you might run a great interview, but do you attract the right people, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. This is interesting. We were having a division manager meeting last week, and three of us, the youngest of the three at 33 years of age, the oldest of the three at 39. I think Justin's older than me. And we were having this adult mid to late 30s, not crisis, but conversation. And we were talking about just how everything freaking hurts when you wake up. I was explaining to Kate, my dear friend, my dearest friend, I said, you know, when you get 35, then there's just stuff that there's just no damn reason, but it just hurts. Like, right, you're lifting, you're like, why the hell does this part of my forearm hurt? And Justin laughs. He says, yeah, I got this ACL surgery, and my trainer can't quite train this muscle, and it hurts like hell, and I can't do squats anymore this way, but I have to do it that way. But one of the things that was really cool is, it was myself or Kate, we said, but you know what? We were still all in the gym at 6 a.m. this morning. And maybe you can't do that same squat that you did before. Maybe Jeff Gamble can't work out the way he did when he was 30, but we're still there. I was still there this morning. I was still there yesterday at 5:30, and it might be different. But despite injury, and that's really bad. I was just trying to define the picture of the worst, like dropping whatever that weight is in your back. That's gotta be bad. Okay, that's just funny.
That's a sport.
That's just funny. Okay, despite injuries, you still find a way to work out if it's a priority. I'll take that to challenge, and it's going to start my, I guess, the rest of my comments. As you approach the summer, despite what comes to you, right? Starbucks are you Jesus moments. YouTube banning you and excommunicating you from the holy community known as YouTube, which apparently is the second biggest search engine in the world. Thank you, Andrew Evans. I didn't know that. I kind of knew that. Okay. Maybe you get evicted from your office. Maybe your receptionist quit one day and have anarchy and post on Facebook, everyone should quit, and everyone does quit. Maybe your phone lines get chopped off because of a storm. Maybe there's someone outside picketing anti-vector slogans and handing out flyers to not attend training at day one, and you don't realize it, but then you have 50 set for training, only one person shows and says, yeah, there's some dude handing out these flyers outside. All of those are true stories that have happened in the summer, right? And they'll get worse, they'll get easier. Maybe you have Facebook allegations of sex trafficking and we drug people's water in the waiting room so we could sex traffic them. I don't know how they caught us, but I'm just saying, maybe they'll catch your scam. Okay, I don't know, but something's gonna happen. But despite you get into the gym, despite you recruit, and you can either make it a reason you're gonna do well or not. Iron sharpens iron. It's a quote from the Bible, and I'll share this with you. I'm gonna give you a couple of thoughts on just how to approach from now, not to the summer, from now till the end of the summer. I think it's really important now more than ever. If you know the actual quote and the passage, iron sharpens iron, there's two parts to it. The first part refers to just challenge and what challenge does and how challenge comes about, the power of challenge, but more so back in the days when you had the anvil, which is where you would put the piece of metal, and the hammer, they're both metal, but one of the metals has to be harder in order for it to work. So in the analogy here, consider yourself the hammer or the tool being sharpened, and consider challenge the anvil. It's going to be hard, and it's supposed to be hard. Otherwise, you can't take away the burrs. You guys know what that means, right? On the knife, on the edge of the knife, you can't sharpen the steel to its degree without iron clashing. So what does that mean? You're going to have challenge, and if you don't have challenge, they always, what's the saying? If it's not hard, you're not working hard enough. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think you can still have challenge and not be working that hard. But my point is, challenge is inevitable. How you respond is the most important thing. Challenge is inevitable. Lessons are optional. That's the other way to think about it. And when I think about iron sharpens iron, I have 3 points for you. Is you got to get your mind right. We have to get our mind right. The only way to be successful, and whatever that is defined for you, is we have to get our mind right. We have to get our mind right with how you approach your territory. We all know the tale of the two English and British, rather, salespeople that went to an African country, two shoe salesmen. One came back distraught, one came back excited. The distraught salesman said, you know what? Cancel the project. It's miserable. We're all poor. They can't afford shoes. The second salesman is excited. Why? Came back and said, man, it's perfect. We're going to blow up. I'm moving tomorrow. Why? They don't have shoes. And how ironic and how interesting, two very, very different stances on one exact same situation. And I want you to think about where you're at with that. You know, we had big challenges last year. We had a company that recruited about 1/3 of our company out to sell security systems and do that version and try to mimic our company's college student model. Some of you are friends, some of you have no clue, Well, it doesn't matter. And there are managers that I know personally use that as a reason why they didn't do well. And there are other managers that said, despite all that, we did not feel that. We have people that were recruited out from FC to that company. We did not feel in this case, Vivint, right? We didn't feel that at all because we didn't make it a big deal. We didn't focus on it, right? You know, Vivint is recruiting on college campuses right now across Southeast Florida. You wouldn't know it because we don't talk about it and we move around it and it's not really making a big difference. And maybe there's a competitor, but what company do you know that's successful that doesn't have people that want to mimic or beat it? So props to us for being someone they want to beat. And I wish no ill on anyone in that direction. People will make their moves based on them. This ground is fertile enough. And sometimes it's not. You got to find new soil or you got to water the grass. You guys know that. And some people have chosen not to water the grass here, but find a different pasture. That's fine. But if you're here, and while you're here, whether it's through August 31st or August 31st of 2021, I don't know. I might not be here forever. But what I do know is when you're here, you got to water the ground, especially in the summer. Especially in the summer. If you're going to reevaluate after the summer. I reevaluate after every summer, believe it or not. Believe it or not, I reevaluate after every summer. And I kind of like where I'm at still. Enough. And I say that, it sounds negative, but I like where I'm at enough to still be here. I can't say that every year. But I'm committed to figuring that out and pushing my best up until the end of the summer. Really important. This is interesting. Puerto Rico really makes it hard for people to excuse my French, bitch and moan about productivity because they don't have what? What don't they have down there?
They don't have mailers.
They don't have mailers, right? This is Jessica Perez, her second summer. Her first summer branch did 100, just shy of $200,000 her first branch. This is her second summer, same territory. She did 450,000. So more than doubled. I think it was 150+% increase. And if you look at her total recruits, okay, 135 of her almost 200 recruits were personal recruits, which is about normal. And the ironic thing is, she only has 3,000 mailers. Our lowest branch manager here in Port Charlotte will probably have 4, 5, or 6,000. So less, about half of our average, and that's an average branch to have between 4 and 7,000 mailers that's paid for by the company. Right? Technically, it's 5,000 mailers paid by the company. And less than that, and look at the recruits that came. Okay? Get your mind right. You guys have seen the movie Martian, or if you don't know about Martian, Matt Damon, who's in every movie nowadays. Newborn coming out, side note. You guys know the premise of the story? It starts intense, and I won't give the movie away. It's pretty self-evident. But it starts intense. There's a mission to Mars, and he gets left behind. They think he's dead. He wakes up. He's got metal in his body. I'll just stop there. And he finds a way to survive. He's got to, as he says, I'm just quoting, I have to science the shit out of it. And he creates crops, potato crops to survive, and he needs to survive for, I think, 4 to 6 years before the next manned mission can come back. And you'll have to see the movie to see what happens. The dog lives. There's no dog. Right? Without a doubt. Okay? This summer it will. It has. It happened this morning. It will continue to happen. Right? But can you do it as my friend Notorious B.I.G. said? What did he say? All the ladies in the place with style and grace. Take out the ladies. Right? Can you do it with style and with grace? Can you accept adversity? Or do you blow your top and are you just a nasty? Are you hangry when you get mad and when stuff happens? Do you freak out all the time? Because resolve and grace are such a great attribute for people, especially in the world of entrepreneurship. You know, the list of things that we have going on in our personal lives and business lives that are problems, I can list it off. I can go through my head to the entire division, the DRM, to the districts, to the branches, to myself. We all have stuff in our lives, and the list goes on and on. I have friends in and out of the business that goes on and on. Family problems, children problems, marital problems, physical problems, health problems, financial problems. I mean, the world is full of them, and they're supposed to be there for you. And how you approach it could probably be a whole nother dinner, another prep just on that alone. And know the list is going to be long, but how you approach it is really important. How you know what you can control and what you can't control. This is me and Heidi's place up in Delaware. And being the words of affirmation guy, top of our mantle has just some very important words for us as a couple. And random fake flowers, which ironically just fit. Really nice. Just really fake, but really nice. Yeah. I mean, You wouldn't know, right? They look kind of real. Very modern, if you will. But grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. So what are you stressing that you can't change? The courage to change the things that I can. What are you lacking the courage to just take on? And then when do you know and have the wisdom to know the difference? You know, pick and choose your battles. Some battles are not worth, right? Lent has really pulled a lot of greatness out of me. I feel this blend. And my thing is just I just have road rage normally, and this one person was tailing me today after the gym. It's right on me, and probably 3 weeks ago, someone would, and they pulled right to the side of me, and they were going to pass me. What I would have done, no doubt, just made that look, or worse. Okay. Even yesterday, Beth was trying to make a turn, and I wanted to make a gesture. Instead, I waved. I don't know if Beth was like, stop, and she didn't see what I was doing. I was like this. I just wanted to be happy and thankful, because I just can't I don't know their deal. Their story causes them to be nasty, and whatever it is, hey, can you control that? And the last thought on keeping your mind right is to respond, not react. See, reaction is never positive. High emotion, yeah. I don't want anyone to react. I want everyone to respond. That's why it's okay to say, give me a second, so I can, what? Versus reacting, right? Because right away, when things happen, you know how we react. But the mature leader can say, how should I respond? You're a parent, and when you have a 4-year-old son, kids just do some silly shit. I'm sorry. I get 2, right? I get 1 opening comments. Okay. They just do some silly shit. Like, kids come out and they're like, my friend John shared a story when he was younger, and he hid under when his dad came home. He came out and was like, rah, right? And he just caught his dad at a bad time. Dad's like, man, that is not funny. Walks away. They just do silly stuff. Okay? But can you think if the dad said, don't ever do that again? That kid's scarred for life. My friend John said, I associated having fun with getting in trouble. So for a while, I stopped having fun. Man, your child can F you up. And it does, by the way. That's what makes you. Or maybe dad said, just don't scare dad when I'm not expecting it. I know that was you're trying to be, whatever it is. I just think when you respond versus react. We're in roles of leadership. Beth responds to her 16 to 20 offices and her staff. You respond to your receptionists and reps. I respond to my subordinates, if you will. Think about that. My second point is the best you is really the best you. The best you is really the best you. And we're in a position of leadership. We're in the spotlight. So when you're in front of people, is the best you coming out right now? Not the best CPO, not the best delivery of an interview, a cut code knife interview, but it's the best you coming out. My good friend John Kane said, I still like who I'm becoming here, as he's been here, I believe, close to 30 years. I still like who I'm becoming here. One of the advantages of Heidi's career and her passion is that we're going to have pretty awesome kids, I think, or at least healthy, because she can fix their poop and puke, if anything. And what a great book that we've been both reading, one for her career, but it also has to just do, not just with parenting, but really relationships. And it talks about just flexible parenting. It talks about understanding kids and reactions and responses, and just knowing that when you deal with emotional, immature minds, you're going to have to be a little bit flexible and being aware of people's emotions. Can you imagine a young child that comes up and says, hey, Daddy, Gavin's kid, right? Dad, I drew you a picture, right? What the hell is that? Imagine that the response from Dad. What is that supposed to be? That's therapy later. Okay? Or how about a kid is just so excited to play baseball, and you say, no, not right now. And that kid just really wants to play baseball. Could you just throw the ball twice? One of the things that Heidi's really loved me to do is just apply a lot more patience to all of you. Because there are times where I'm like, man, after being in Cutco, I don't want kids. If I have to deal with that more personally every day. And that's just the ego, very selfish side of me at that moment. And then I think, man, for all the bonehead decisions that our districts and branches make, how many boneheaded decisions have I made? And where can I find ways to be encouraging versus discouraging? Where can I find ways to just let it go? From whether someone's late here, someone's not on point there. I'm certainly not advocating low standards and loose standards. I guess what I am trying to advocate is just perfection's not available, and you have to be a little more patient. And part of me just says, you know, some people won't get it, and I just won't give them as much energy. So I absolve myself of that responsibility. That's really the easiest thing for me. It's like, I'll try so much, and if it doesn't work, move forward. Not on me. Can't say I didn't give it a shot. You know, and the 10-80-10 applies here too as well. Are you the best version of you? That's why I think you should make sure you're eating. Don't eat Snickers every day. But are you hangry when you talk to people? Are you putting yourself in a place where you're always angry? You're so tired? Are you? That has to do with I think Oberg's story that many of you like, with the 80% and the Navy SEAL trainer training the executives to run up the hill at 50%, then walk down, then 60%, then 70%, then 80%. And then he said, what's next? And all the executives said, oh, we're going 100%. He goes, no, do 80% again. They come back down. He says, how do you feel? And John Oberg and all their friends said, man, I could do that all day, 80%. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Great. Exercise is over. Let's take a quick break. Grab lunch, one more exercise. They go back up, give me 110%. They go 110, they all vomit, feel like terrible. How do you feel now? This is awful. Right. So why not do 80%? Because you could do it all day long. This was great. So why do 110% and feel like that, and you could do 80% all day long? I'm not advocating don't work hard. I am advocating protect yourself. There's nothing you're going to do at 11 o'clock and midnight that's going to affect the business, especially when you're shipping as an office a week, what one of our reps ships in a day sometimes in the pilot. Yet you're up at midnight getting the business going. Right? Don't kid yourselves, respectfully. Don't kid yourself. Now, do I believe in burning the midnight oil and really grinding it sometimes? Yes, but not all the time. In the beginning, in goal period, in April, in May, and the transition's a lot more work and harder, but it's not like that in July and August if you do it right in the beginning. Just know to protect yourself, know to eat, know to sleep. Really important. I think the exercise could go in there too. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with others. That means that 20% where you protect yourself, you're able to give it and fortify those strong relationships with, hopefully, your circles of influence. And how's that? Aaron Forsman is one of our division managers, newer guy, just doing a great job. And he pulled a very important quote. If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. You ever feel good after an AGL prep, you're with your non-Cutco friends, and you're talking, you're like, man, I am growth-oriented, and I'm ahead of my friends. But you're still in that room. I think it's the issue. I think about, man, every person from Beth in this room to the three of you to the districts to everyone in Puerto Rico and virtually, I list off who I associate you with, and it always matches up with your performance. It always matches up with attitude, with ups and downs, and everyone's in the same circle. In the division, there are cliques, and that's probably the wrong term, but there are groups of people that talk to each other more than not. All their CPOs match, all their attitudes match, all the negative things match. They all talk the kind of the same. They all have the same slang. Some of you reflect the slang of the managers who've been around the most. Right? When I hear certain like responses, I'm like, oh, they've worked with so and so. Oh, they talk to so and so a lot. They, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And think about that. Are you proud? Are you excited? Do you like where that's at for you? Because I certainly don't all the time for me. So I change it, and you can fix that too. You can change it. And ironically enough, the second part of iron sharpens iron, there's more to the quote. It's that so does one man sharpen another. What that means really is utilizing other people. And this, for faith, it means find other Christians to help you become a better Christian. From a business standpoint, it means surround yourself with the right people who will push you to be a better person within that realm. And that's why the circle of influences are so important. I just added a different attachment to you, and I'll share this with you. I gave this to our division manager team. I laminated one for everyone, and it's blank. Just kind of force this every day. Okay, and I have kind of my version of this, and I'm going to shake it so you guys can't really read it, but I have my version of it. Right? Of people that I think I need to make sure I spend time with. And you can do it for personal, you can do it for business, and ironically enough, you should do it for both and see who intertwines. And those are the people you should talk to. Right? Be interesting to go around and see the bank account liquid number of all the people you hang out with. It's all the same, I promise you. I promise you. Right? None of you are hanging out with people who have different bank accounts. And you can take a bank account with fitness. You can take fitness out and put in faith and so forth and so forth and so forth. Isn't it interesting how thriving couples always are around other thriving couples, and single and mingling are always with single and mingling? It's truth. So get your mind right. The best shoe is the best shoe, and focus on your circles of influence. Okay, and I'm going to end there. I know we're just a tad bit over, but we can make up the time certainly later on the prep. I'll stop there, and we'll go with the what's hot, what you appreciate. We'll take a break because we are finally up thanks to Beth. Okay, so on WhatsApp, we'll do what's hot, what do you appreciate. You guys can post it, and we'll start here. We'll go Dwayne, we'll go Anthony, Mr. Gavin, Miss Beth, and I'll read off the rest of Lisa before I break. Dwayne, you're up.
All right, what's hot is I sold my apartment yesterday. What I appreciate is family.
Good. Me too.
What's hot? We're finally on. Everybody's finally online. What I appreciate. That talk you just gave.
You what?
What? Which?
The last one?
Oh, the talk you just gave.
Oh, you talk. You just. Thank you. I didn't hear you. Gav, with the look at that shirt. Ravens on LSD. Ravens shirt on LSD. Ooh, oh man.
What's hot is our time yesterday. I really appreciate that. And what I appreciate is, again, the group, and we're all together doing it again.
That's right.
Yeah.
Miss
On a
Beth.
Saturday when other people are doing nothing.
That's right.
Amen.
Miss Beth.
What's hot and what I appreciate is my new role.
Nice.
Kind of combo all together, just the new opportunity I get this summer.
She's our new region manager.
I am.
Congratulations, Beth.
Little did you know.
Oh, yeah.
And I appreciate the time I had to spend with Jeff yesterday too.
Awesome. Yeah, yesterday was just QT day for a minute. All right, and so we're waiting here on the what's hot, what do you appreciate from the rest of the group. It's also a kind of pseudo test to see who's paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
Wait for it. Wait for it. Dorcas is typing. Kayla is typing. Andrew is typing. Oscar is typing. Jonathan is typing. Ashley is typing. What's hot? Getting things organized and ready to go. What do I appreciate? My COI. Sonimar. What's hot? Feeling alive. Andrew Evans from the Honolulu flagship headquarters. What I appreciate? Capitalism. Yes, sir! Capitalism. I love my MacBook Pro. That's really more consumerism.
Yeah.
Some capitalism. Nice, Andrew. We should talk politics. That'd be a fun one. Who else? Kayla, what's hot? Finally coming down to the home stretch. Appreciate my health. What's hot, Vargas? Just on the last week of my internship. What I appreciate? Life. Daniel, what's hot? What do you appreciate?
What's hot is I'm actually excited just for this upcoming week, just because I know that a lot has to happen this week, and I'm excited for the work. And what I appreciate is life. I appreciate life.
Life. Luke, what's hot? More capitalism. Well done. Well done. Beth's YouTube account. Heisman, what's hot is being healthy. Appreciate the ability to make change happen with a decision. We're waiting for a few more. What we're going to do, everybody, is after this, we're going to take a quick break. Being here with the team, appreciate Dad's health, family support. Okay. We're going to take a quick 10-minute break, and then we're going to turn things over to Miss Beth. I'm going to make a couple of adjustments to the schedule, but we should be just fine. I actually worked in into the time what's happening. So I'm going to mute this currently so that there's no banning. We can actually hit some music if you'd like. And we'll start in 10. Hold on, let's finish up. Let's be mindful of Dorcas being here. Oh, sorry, Alemi, getting back home with the family and ready to train. Appreciate my family. Grace, 185K in personal sales and working hard with the development. And Ashley, I appreciate whatever you're typing right now. Let's take 10. Mute.
funk jazz
Okay.
fusion. It was basically the
Yeah.
beginning of jazz fusion. And that's where
That's
you
when
hear
I
like
like jazz.
All right, everybody. We're back up here with Beth, covering one of my favorite parts of receptionist program. I think it's important and exciting because how you train your receptionist really sets the tone. And you know, one of the things that's important is you remember from an educational standpoint, from a coaching standpoint, teaching standpoint, the habits and what happens with your receptionist happen in the training seminar of the receptionist. Same thing with the reps. You have a high maintenance rep, low maintenance rep. They sell a lot, they don't sell a lot. That's really on the trainer. And the same thing can happen with the expectations that you set and how things work from a reception standpoint. So if you haven't already, check the new join.me at 179-993-835. And if you get into an accident, call 1-800-411-PAIN. That's all over South Florida. And then Miss Beth has her documents up. You have the handouts. I turn things over to our new, as of the summer, will be our new almost like key staff district manager recruiting DRM. Kind of a new twist on utilizing Beth's skills for the region. So essentially, she's going to be working with the key staff of the district manager team. We mentioned this briefly at the last conference, but I think it's awesome. And if you will, with a strong three trio that we have here,
extra strong.
and ready, we can do a little extra strong. Make sure you post one WhatsApp when you're on, and a little emoticon from Miss Beth Shishmania. Give it up.
Woo! Yeah!
Ladies and gentlemen, Sexual Chocolate. Movie. I'll see. Now all of you are so young. It's Eddie Murphy and Arsenio Hall Coming to America. You've seen that movie. I've seen that movie.
I was thinking
Sexual chocolate.
1975.
I like there's at least still people in front of me. I like that. Okay. Well, to be talking to myself. All right. So for those of you guys who are on Join Me, you know, the reason I'm bringing this up is just these are the handouts, obviously, that Jeff emailed to you. So you can either look there or I'm going to be opening them as needed. So you guys have one. I'm not going to reference the training quiz, just a quick heads up. All right. So you guys can just see what that is, just so we can quickly walk through what you guys have. It's just a quiz that you technically could use after maybe like their 2-week evaluation, which we'll talk about. You know, it does show you kind of what you've made a point to teach them, because if they obviously don't know certain things, that's kind of important. So I will tell you this also. So I've been working on this for the summertime. I used to send, and Dwayne and I know Andrew both know this, but I give you guys a lot of documents. And so just a heads up that going into the summer, I actually started to create my own website just to make it easier. And this website will be like an all access pass to whatever you guys need. And so I'll make sure to send that in an email, like the link, the link to my actual website when I'm finished with it. There are going to be videos on there, training videos for not only you guys, but also for your receptionists. Okay. And there are all the documents that I give you guys throughout our training, throughout, you know, AGL or whatever the case is. You're going to get, that's going to all be on one link that you're going to download before the summer. And I cannot emphasize enough to like pay attention to that email. I'll probably send you guys a text as well, just to say, hey, heads up, you guys are going to get this, because it can be very challenging. Now, you know, Jeff referenced my kind of new role this summer. I will tell you that although I'm only working with the top DMs in the region, I will continue to work with just the FC. Okay, I'm not working with any other branches except for the FC, and of course the new districts, as well as the top districts in the region. Okay, so that being said, it's a new role for me, and so I will tell you this, and I'll probably talk about this again in April, because I won't be at the March prep, but in April we'll probably talk about how to best work with me. In order for me to kind of keep my sanity, the reason I'm creating the website now is so that you guys don't have to constantly be asking me for things. And I can't emphasize how important that is. Just for my sanity, for your sanity, most of the time, you know, it can be found in something I've already given you, okay? Including the manager and receptionist documents. So you guys can actually give the website to your receptionist. What I did is I locked the manager tab. So you guys will have a password, and you can get in there for stuff for you, right? And it gives a lot of information about me. There's actually a section about me, like about my history with the company, that you could show receptionists as well. There's a letter that I'm going to reference today that's on there for all new receptionists, so they can literally just read it. There's a link to our Facebook page. Okay, these are all things that you will need at some point in the summertime. So please make sure you're looking out for that. But either way, the documents here will also be there. So I save the email just in case. So you again, always look there before you ask me for things. Okay. I want to really quickly just kind of not necessarily debrief last prep, but what was the topic of our last prep as far as receptionist program? What do we talk? I don't have the WhatsApp, so if someone's going to WhatsApp it, I won't see it, and I don't have my phone on me. What was the topic? We're talking about training now. What do you think the topic last prep was? Hiring. Yeah, hiring. Okay. Couple different just reminders from last prep that we talked about. I know Andrew gave some insight, and I want to kind of emphasize that again. Biggest keys with hiring are going to be things like starting early. I know I was talking to Jeff about this yesterday. I'm going on a vacation, 10-day vacation in March. Mid-March, I will already be thinking about what to do with hiring before I even leave, so that when I come back, I'm set up for success with the pilot. Okay, you guys, it's a little bit different, obviously, but you really do want to start early, probably. And what we did last year, just a quick heads up, is when you guys secure your office lease, okay, and when you have an idea of when you're actually opening, once you have that date, I'm able to give you more insight on when you should start advertising, interviewing, and planning for training, okay? Till that point, I can't tell you, because if you're not open, you're not gonna start 2 months early and have no idea when you're opening. So that obviously goes, you know, for new DMs, you guys open a little earlier usually. If you're not in school, you can usually open a little earlier. For my branches who are especially in school, you guys are going to start everything a little bit later based on when you can get out of finals, okay? So we will not decide we can kind of give you an idea, or I can help you. You can basically text me and say, okay, here's my hiring date, or here's what I'm opening, excuse me. My plan to open is this. Can you give me an idea of when I should start advertising, when I should start doing phone screenings and interviews and things like that, okay? But starting early is really key. So when you know that date, that will help us give you kind of insight into when you start advertising, okay? So starting early is key. Another thing we pointed out is making sure you're scheduling things into, every week into your plan, if you will, or your planner, as far as when you're going to place ads or when you're going to seek out candidates, things like that. Phone screenings, interviews, trainings, things like that goes into your schedule just in case. That way, if there's any hiccups along the way, you have a backup plan, okay? Plan for things, I think Andrew said kind of like plan almost, he didn't necessarily say it this way, but plan for things not to work out, right? We talked about that. I referenced Justin Donald's SLC talk that you should have watched by now. Did everyone watch it? Yeah. Any big takeaways?
We're debriefing that.
Oh, then never mind. I'll just let you guys do that. Okay. And then, of course, went through the 5 steps of hiring, from advertising, which is the first step, voicemail screening, phone screenings, the interview itself. Here's the situation with the interview and training. Some of you guys, John, for example, had texted me saying, hey, I'd love to watch your interview. I'd love to watch your training. I think you may have asked me something along the lines of that as well. The thing is that I'm not always interviewing and training in my office, okay? I actually currently am looking for another receptionist in the pilot, someone who's super part-time. In fact, if anyone is from the Fort Lauderdale, Broward County area, I created a Google form. Daniel has the email. If you guys can help me find candidates, that's the thing. I won't just interview anyone. I really am looking for the right person for my team right now. But if anyone wants to, like Kayla's for someone, I know someone who helped us out this past summer. If you guys want to help out with that, I will tell you that once I get interviews set, okay, in the next 2 weeks and a training set, what I will do is I will make a Google Hangout, and anyone who wants I'll let you guys know. I'll have someone post in the group, say, hey, Beth is running an interview at this time. Let her know if you want to participate. You guys can watch my interview live, okay, and training. That being said, I also have a video that of an actual interview. Did you watch that? Okay. You can always watch the interview online as well. If you need the interview, I can give it to you, okay? I don't have a full training because it's like a 3-day training, which we'll talk about, okay? But you can always watch some of whatever I happen to do. And I don't mind doing that. You just have to communicate with me. I'll let you know if and when that happens. I just don't have candidates right now that I really want to interview, all right? So, okay, and then obviously after the interview, we do the final yes and no, okay? So here's what documents you guys have. You've got a DRM welcome letter. Like I said, it's gonna be on the website. It's actually something you give people in training, just a heads up. Just to clarify, we're gonna be working mainly off the receptionist training outline. That's what we're gonna be working off today, all right? Now, I have the manual. That is intense, man. No, the whole binder is binder is intense. That's awesome. Okay.
That was my Thursday.
That's great. I love it. Okay. I will tell you, you'll create something similar for receptionists, actually, like probably not as intense. We will mainly be working off of this. Okay. That being said, in the manual, there is a basic receptionist training, right? From like, you know, A to Z as far as like what you include in training. This is a more updated version of it. Okay. I also made it a little bit more simple. I find that, you know, sometimes people work well with bullet points, and I did update it a little bit. So we are going to mainly going off this. However, just like with the hiring section, because I have a 5 steps to hiring and an interview bullet pointed, you guys can still use the manual as well, kind of in combination with it. But this is more updated as far as what should be covered. Okay, and that's what we're going to go off of today. Okay. The next one that we have is, the receptionist policies document. I'm going to go over that at the end of today. That's actually something you utilize in training. Hey, you guys, I don't know if any of you guys have ever had like a handbook that you have when you start a job. It's my version of that. And honestly, after a couple just years of challenges with managers not fully setting standards and being able to implement them because they didn't really know what to cover, I created a document that you guys go through in training together, have them sign, you sign it, and that way everyone is on the same page about what standards we expect, okay? And then this is a workshop that I'm gonna go through it. It's one of the biggest workshops I cover in training, so we're actually gonna go through that, okay? All right, so here's what we're gonna do. We're literally just gonna go to the receptionist training outline. Again, you guys can either have it, you know, you can follow along here, or you can follow along on your computer, okay? Whatever you guys have. All right, so here's the deal. At this point, you have accepted someone for training, right? Along with the email, you guys will get 2 emails, kind of like an email template of what you send to a receptionist when you confirm them for an interview. And it's very similar, but you're going to have an email template for what to send them to confirm them for training. So when we accept them, I don't give them, I mean, you can technically give them everything over the phone, but I prefer just to send it in an email once I've given them the position and congratulated them, okay? Before we get into that though, all right, we're gonna talk, by the way, about the 3-day training. The complete training is what I call it. I'm sure you've probably been there, and I know most branches at some point have dealt with this, and of course districts as well. Sometimes you need to train, especially a PR caller last minute, like emergency. So I'm gonna reference that today. If and when you're in a time crunch this summer where you absolutely need to get staffed, Earl Kelly reached out to Scott, and Scott reached out to Charlotte and I, the DRMs in the Eastern region, about like having like a short training that if in an absolute emergency you needed to run something, especially with PRs, because that's a big part of our business. You know, I created a pretty simple PR training. It goes along with this receptionist training outline, but we'll cover that as well. But I am first going to cover the 3 major parts of training that you guys should be conducting, okay? Before I do that, actually, I do want you to take notes in the following. When I was creating this training outline, and over the years, I've kind of collected some lessons that are really learned when it comes to running a proper receptionist training, okay? And I want to go over those with you, especially because some of these things are very tempting to do when you get busy, when a receptionist doesn't work out and you need to train someone very last minute. You know, it's more likely, and I will tell you this, I've had managers, I remember a specific former branch who actually did very well in the FC. I remember his first day of training that he had actually watched my training before, okay? And he said, you know, I don't know what I'm doing, is what he basically said. I think on some level, you'll probably all feel like that. I think it's the first time you run an interview or the first time you run a rep interview or rep training. You know what to do, but obviously you're not as confident in it. I want you to know that's okay. All right, that's why I've created an outline. If you kind of cover these points, and I'm going to go through the points, but that's okay. You'll kind of learn as you go. All right, be confident in that. Lessons learned though. Okay, and we're going to reference this. Number 1, training is not watching videos, because you guys will know, if you don't know this already, we have Vector Live videos. All right, there's actually a video that they watch that's from me. I have done an hour and 15-minute video on the 5 basics. You don't have to teach it. You can just play this for them. So that's definitely helpful for you, okay? There also are the Vector Live videos, right? We're gonna walk through how to set someone's Vector Live account up today. I'll show you really quickly. And when they do that, in order to, you guys know this because you have to watch the videos, they have to watch the videos. However, the common mistake of a lot of managers is, oh, I'll just have them watch the videos. I'll have them watch, Beth's 5 basics, and that's basically it. And I want you to understand that is not receptionist training, okay? And the reason I had a really good conversation with James Crittenden the other day because he was talking about areas of opportunity versus success with his receptionist manager. She's an awesome manager. She's been around for about 4 years. But one of the things that she doesn't make a point to do as much, and she's still learning, is to really create, set the tone and create culture, to create credibility for the business, to build vision for the business. That stuff doesn't happen in videos. It happens when from the moment that you interview them, and of course when you go through training with them. So for example, I play testimonials in my training, and you guys will have links to that stuff. Okay, but I play testimonials, and I also talk about, you share your personal story in training, right? When in sales rep training, well, I do the same thing in my in my receptionist training. Okay, so that part cannot be duplicated in just a video. There's going to be, especially because you're their boss, you're their manager, it's going to be important for them to get that sense of credibility and legitimacy and confidence in you and in the business or in the organization that you're running. Okay, and that can't be done through a video. So it's not just let me have them watch the videos, let them figure it out. All right. Now, one mistake that I've made in the past, but one thing I want you to understand, in some cases, especially, and I'm sure you may know this, in the heat of the summer when things are going crazy and you need a caller, the mistake is that managers will sit there and think, okay, I have to do this full, huge training. I have to build lots of credibility. That is not always a luxury that we have. Would you agree with that? Yeah, it's not always a luxury that you have. And in some cases, some of that will have to kind of be worried about later because you need a caller. No receptionist is worse than it's worse than a receptionist that maybe doesn't have that belief. So I will tell you that more in April, beginning of May, when you're starting the business, this is going to be an opportunity for you to, and by the way, it helps retain them later if you get them tied in. Don't get me wrong, okay? However, there are going to be cases where you can't do that. And so we provide backups. That's why I have a video. So maybe you don't have the time for them to sit there and for them to sit there and you go through a full 4-hour orientation with them. Okay. So there are backups, but I'm going to talk about the ideal scenario, and then we'll talk about backups for you guys. Okay. But ultimately, if you're running a proper training and if you have the time to do it, it's not just watch the videos. Good luck. Okay. Be on point. And the reason I write this down is because I really want to emphasize the impression that you're giving to your new receptionists. You're a business owner, act like it, right? You show up before they show up, right? And I'm talking about even from the moment they start training, because from the moment they start training with you, they are creating an impression of you, okay? You need to look nicer than how your receptionists look, right? You should be wearing your suit. You should be on time. You should be organized. You should be prepared. Imagine walking into your sales rep training. People are already standing outside your door. You don't have copies. You don't have anything ready. The office looks a mess. That's a problem, right? And by the way, you'll do this at first, but I'm telling you always that's important if you really want to retain someone, okay? Remember, they're employees versus reps. Some of it you will learn as you go, as far as you're going to cover the points. You may not feel as confident, but be confident that you'll kind of you're going to learn some of it as you go. All right. We already talked about hiring. So those are the lessons I would say are important for you to remember. Okay. So I'm going to talk about the ideal training first and how we break it down. All right. I break it down into, if you notice on the document, right, it's separated. It says part/day 1. And the reason is because some people think, do I have to do each part per day? Not necessarily. Okay. You can do the orientation and have them watch some of the videos. That's part 1 and part 2. You are probably not, you're not going to be able to get it into one full day. I don't think, right? It really depends how long your orientation is. If you notice, I put 2.5 to 4 hours. The reason is because mine takes 4 hours, right? Mine takes 4 hours, but I've noticed a lot of managers, it probably takes, I don't know, how long did it take you the first time you did an orientation? Around 2 hours. Yeah. So I assume 2.5 is probably safe. Give yourself maybe 3 for your first time. It's not going to take you probably 4. All right. So once you do the orientation, and we're going to go through this, but once you go through the orientation, okay. Oops, I went too quick. I'm sorry. Part 2, right, is watching the videos. Part 3 is observation and role play. Okay. And I'll explain part 4 in a second, or a little bit later. Okay. After our break. All right, so we're going to start with part 1. Again, if you separate into 3 days, that's okay. For me, if I have the luxury to do that, I will. You could, for example, do orientation, have them start watching the videos. How long your training days are? What, like 5, 6 hours first day, 7 hours, 7 hours. Here's the problem with that and with receptionists. It's a lot of information. And if we really want them to understand what we're talking about, it's a little bit too much. Okay, it's a little bit too much. So, I love that Jeff, Jeff, one of the things I love most about when he does AGL, for example, or meetings, he takes breaks. And it's okay to take a break every, if you notice, actually, I put breaks into training. Okay. Now, if you've only taken 20 minutes to do the first part, you don't need to take a break. But just so you understand, like, I put that in there because it is important. It's a lot of information. You'll notice that they haven't really even taken a call in the first part, so we don't want to go too specific into like details about the things on the phone if they haven't even taken a call yet. All right. So that's kind of how I break it down. The observation and role play, that could be really a second day, right? Like you could do the first 2 parts and then the second day technically could be role playing and then observation of you on the phone. Okay, that's technically how you could break it up. Don't get caught up too much in how you could break it up. You know what I mean? As long as these things are accomplished, that's the ideal situation. Okay, does that make sense? Do you guys have any questions? And again, I don't have the WhatsApp group, so if there are questions from anyone else watching, you guys can post and they'll communicate with me. Okay, please. All right, so part 1 is orientation. Some people call this classroom style, whatever you want to call it, doesn't matter, I call it orientation. I will tell you this, do not expect, actually, I assume you wouldn't expect this, but receptionists are not perfect when they first start taking calls. It's actually very painful to listen to them make calls. You're gonna have to do it anyway. But I want to, and the reason I include this here is because the goal of really orientation is to build a foundation in our program. That's what the goal is on that first part of training. We're going to give them an introduction to the business. We're going to review from the receptionist interview to really, again, not only define, but build value in what they're doing. We're going to walk through the fundamentals, including why we're doing what we're doing. And then we definitely cover administrative things. Okay, you guys wait till like day 3 to do that, I think, right? In sales rep training, we do that on the first day. When they're getting paid, what our expectation is, because again, they are employees. So we need to make sure they know what the policies are as far as being late or calling out or things like that, right? When they're going to get paid, when they should expect their schedule, whatever the case is, okay? So first things first, they come in, you welcome them, you give them a tour to the office. And I do think, especially for this group, you guys are new managers, okay? Some of you, when you move into your offices, it's going to look super sketchy, okay? Do the best that you can. I'm not super worried about that, but like, ideally you're in your office for training. I actually don't know if maybe did you ever train like not in your office? No. You always trained in your office? Yeah. I've had a couple managers that the office wasn't quite ready yet. Ideally, you train them in your office. Obviously, you're going to need internet, right? You're going to need internet at least to train them. I mean, I trained like 13 receptionists. I remember our first summer in Miami, and there was like nothing on the walls or anything like that. I just simply explained to them that we had just recently moved from Maryland to Miami. I interviewed them at the Starbucks and whatever, not a big deal. Either way, give them a tour of the office. Obviously, it's as set up as ideally as possible. If you have any assistants, of course, you can introduce them, any other receptionists, whatever the case is, okay? First thing that I do, and I guess you could kind of combine the next 2, is, and by the way, the W-4 and I-9 are on Vector Connect. Remember, they are employees. If you go on Vector Connect, you go to I want to say my office. It's either my office, yeah, it's got to be my office because it's not my account.
You can find it via simple.
Super easy, yeah. It's receptionist forms, okay? And basically you go on there and you need to find, they still have the 2015 W-4 up, but by the summer they'll have 16, I'm assuming. The I-9, you print them out, right? And that actually, when I set up my receptionist binder, so you guys see this, okay? I have a receptionist binder. You're not gonna set up this exact thing for your receptionist, okay? Some managers have made a requirement for them to bring a binder in with them. I don't really care. I can tell you though, having a binder is super important, okay? I think it creates just more legitimacy in what you're actually doing. Okay. I don't want you to spend tons of money on it. You could tell them, hey, bring a binder in, whatever. Point is that what I do is I set it up with their W-4, their I-9 right at the front, right? Their schedule and the policies document is at the back, and then all the handouts that I give them are in the center. Okay, first handout is the DRM welcome binder. Okay, as far as what's in the binder, you can kind of, obviously, actually put this down. We'll just to make this easy. What should be in your binder? Okay, the receptionist training binder. Okay, it should be the W-4 and I-9, right? Their tax paperwork. Yes. Now I do have one, because actually it might even be in the manager documents that I'm going to give you. Okay. However, if it's not, it's on Vector Live. Okay. W4 looks like this. This might be an old version of it. W4 looks like this, right? You guys don't necessarily fill these out as reps. So, I mean, this is important. W4 and an I-9. Okay, this stuff goes up in with their first paycheck. We'll cover paychecks in April. Okay, I-9. Actually, they end up really only filling out the first page because it's the employer section. Okay, that goes in the front. Okay, I usually will put their first week's schedule. Like if I create their schedule for them, right, and then I put it like I have a blank. You guys will actually have a blank schedule. You can write in what the schedule looks like, whatever the case is. And I put it usually in the back. Okay, it's just a blank schedule. You can fill it out. And then I put the receptionist policies document in the back. All right. Inside the binder, here's what you need: the DRM welcome letter, which you guys should have, right? I absolutely put the approaches, and the reason I put the approaches is because Vector Live goes out at some point during the summer. I can guarantee it will stop working, or your internet will go out. It happens. So if the internet goes out and for some reason our people are still taking, we don't want receptionists, oh, sorry, Vector Live's go home. By the way, a lot of times when Vector Live does go out, it usually starts back up within like 10 minutes, just so you know. Okay. But if it goes out, you need to have copies of actual approaches. Also, you're going to be role playing with them in training. So they need copies of the actual approaches, okay? So in the link that you'll get on my website, whatever it is, it will have the approaches. It will have, so the approaches would be the IAP script, the new call script, the PR script. Those are the 3 approaches that they need, okay? The objections that they'll need: my FAQ document, frequently asked questions. Is that per hour? How does pay work? What's the product? That's actually the document that they'll have out the most when they first start. Here's the deal. Vector Live has answers. I don't really like them. They're a little bit wordy. So I created a document. It's the same information. I just happen to like this a little bit better. It's a little bit more specific. It's not very easy to get stuff changed on Vector Live. So either way, FAQ document and the PR specific objections. That's the other document that we have in there. Okay. I usually put, okay, so then the other document would be why people show to the interview, which we'll go over today. Why people show. 5 basics workshop, which is in there too. See, if you see, you'll see all these documents, by the way, and your receptionist will have access to all these documents. Don't put them all in the binder. It's a waste. It's too much information. So I'm talking about the ones that just should go in the binder, okay? 5 basics and why people show. Now, it's cool. You can go look through these documents and get tips on certain topics, but don't print them all out, okay? This is important. PR phone variations, okay? That is actually, so what I do is, like, based on the type of PR, we might open the call differently, right? But the approach stays the same. Clipboards, Facebook, traditional post-interview, there's different types of openings. Hey, your friend was just started with us versus hey, your friend was just accepted with us. So the variations is important because it shows them, you put it with the PR approach and they know how to open the call, then they can go into the direct approach. Okay. I usually will throw in the recruiting funnel, which you'll have access to, and the standards. That's it. Those are the things that I would include in the binder. If you really want to, at the beginning of the summer, we get a crazy discount from Staples, Office Max, Office Depot, whatever. You could go print the original of these out and make, maybe 10 copies and make the binders and just have them if needed. That would probably be the best way to do it. Yeah, that's totally fine. It saves you a lot of time. Either way, receptionists should have some sort of training binder, okay? And again, if you require them to bring it, you have to put it into your training email confirmation, all right? But the reason, and I have a receptionist, Jen Reich, actually, one of our old receptionists. She worked with us for like 3 summers. Every summer, she'd come back, she'd bring her binder. Every summer. Okay, that binder is very important for them. It's something, by the way, that they can keep. I put it, sometimes I'll put it in like an old Cutco blue book. Obviously, those cost money, so I wouldn't do that. You can go to the dollar store and get easy, cheap binders, okay? So the point is that you're gonna need the binder and you're gonna need the employee paperwork. You're gonna give that all to them. And what I usually do is I'll quickly go through it. We're gonna reference it in training, but I'll quickly say, here's what this is, right? Have them fill out, obviously, the paperwork. The paperwork needs to go up with their first paycheck. So they don't have to fill it out right then and there if they don't need to. Oh, you know what? There is one other document that I do wanna be included in the training binder. This is something that I create, sorry, I didn't create. This is something that I got years ago. This is awesome. It's called an employee availability sheet. This goes in the back also, or with their training paperwork. With their tax paperwork. It is very hard to keep track of everyone's schedules, when they need vacation time, if they need a day off, whatever it is. And so I have them fill this out. They put their regular availability right at the top. And then if they need to request a day off in the future, I hold this in my pay binder. And anytime they need a day off or request something, they have to get this from me, fill it out, give it back to me. That way, every week when I make the schedule, every other week when I make the schedule, I can reference this. They always have to remind me and things like that. And it literally says here, schedule request should be made at least 1 week prior, blah, 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 blah. Schedule specific days are not guaranteed to be granted. If schedule permits, the days and times will be granted. Whatever the case is. So I have them fill this out, and also so I don't forget their availability, okay? So that will also go in the training binder, okay? All right. So I have them fill that out. I go through that. Next step is better we get to know you. All right, you guys do that in training, right? Same thing. Now, I don't know how many people you'll be training at once. I mean, you could be training 1, you could be training 5. I have no idea, okay? If you're going to be doing a group session, you're going to make it a little bit shorter. You're not going to have them all give tons of information about themselves. But if it's one-on-one, I basically take the time to build rapport with them. Okay, so welcome, congratulations. Obviously, I look forward to working with you, and then I'll usually explain to them why I'm looking forward to working with them and really what today is about. My objectives today are what it says right there. Here are my objectives today. All right, and so what I do is so I gave you a couple ideas as far as how I build rapport with them and how I really try to connect with them. It's like, so a couple things I like to do to kind of, it's like mix and mingle, right? It's like a couple things that, I want to ask you, or I want to get, I want to talk about before we get started as far as really being able to start creating a professional working relationship. Number one, obviously, I'd like to get to know you a little bit. Tell me a little bit about yourself. What are 3 things I need to know about you? That's something I do. And I always do it myself, right? So I keep it, obviously not super detailed. I say, number 1, I love coffee. You'll always see me in the morning with coffee. This is not natural. Like, I definitely have a lot of energy, but it comes from my coffee. Number 2, I don't have any kids, but I have an 8-year-old nephew. I love to spoil him. Always going for, greatest aunt of the year award. And then number 3 is I'm from Baltimore, so I'm a big Baltimore Ravens fan. So is our boss Jeff, right? So I'll just share like 3 quick things. Nothing super. I'm recently new to the Atlanta area, but I'm from Fort Lauderdale. I went to this school, whatever. Okay. And then the other question that I ask that I do in the interview too. Okay, I think I mentioned this is I ask them, hey, just as a reminder, what are you looking to get out of this job? So, you might be able to play around with that a little bit, but it's just an opportunity for you to get to know the person that you're interviewing. Hello. By the way, the reason I also do rapport, especially with the 3 things I need to know about you, is because I reference the importance and value of rapport later and how we do it on the phone. So then I say, hey, remember what I did earlier? Just, it's really easy to talk about. It's really easy to get to know someone and talk to them, whatever the case is, okay? So I do that. Next, brief manager introduction and personal story. Tell them a little bit about yourself, okay? How long does it take you in training, sales training, usually?
Tell them about yourself?
Yeah, your personal story, roughly. 15 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour. I mean, I have no idea, honestly. 10, 15 minutes. Okay. Keep in mind this. I do want you to give your personal story, but keep in mind that they're not applying for this. They're not interviewing, they're not training for the sales rep job. So building a ton of value about Cutco, it's helpful. Like, it's cool for you to mention like what you're excited about when, here's when you started, what you're excited about as far as what you were excited about when you started, what you've taken away from the company. That's an opportunity to build a vision. But don't make it totally about you. I mean, not don't make it totally about you, but like don't go crazy about Cutco, because realistically, they're obviously there for the reception shop. Here would be a great thing to cover during that section when you were scheduled for an interview. I remember when I was scheduled for an interview, I talked to, so on my website, I put my about section. My first paragraph was about my experience with the receptionist that I talked to. Okay, I always cover that. I cover how I was a mailer, how I remember blank, you know, how my parents reacted. They were actually really excited because my mom had sold Cutco before, you know, just really like, you know, positive. I know you guys do this. You guys talk about like, what do you know, I heard you guys role playing a little bit, like, you know, why do you think we shouldn't do this? Or what did your parents think? I like to keep it really positive during this part. They don't know anything about sales or Cutco, and they're not doing it either at this moment. So we just really want to keep them like, again, build vision as far as why they're excited and create credibility. Okay. So brief introduction. I wouldn't take more than 10 minutes for that, 5-10 minutes, whatever it is. Okay. I go through a review from the interview. Right? So, hey, as a reminder, I want to go through what we discussed in our interview, right? I go through the recruiting funnel, right? I draw it out for them, or I pull it up for them, talk about where we get our touches from, how that creates launches ultimately, but how their job is to schedule people for the interview. I redefine the position, right? That's actually a couple down, define receptionist position, right? But I do that multiple times because I really want them to know what I'm expecting of them, which is your job is to make and take calls to schedule people for interviews, because that is really what leads to a more successful business. Simple explanation of receptionist standards. So I pull out the standards document, and actually let me show this to you just to make it easy. Maybe I should have included it. I apologize. I thought I did, but you know, we do go into more detail when it comes to standards, okay? In training, all right? But versus the interview. Like we don't cover all of this in the interview, right? So here's what I want you to notice, all right? I separate the standards between incoming and outgoing, right? So I explained to them, so, you know, I want to talk about what we're looking for. This position is hourly paid. This is how you explain it. This position is hourly paid. But it is also performance-based, meaning that your success is ultimately our success. The more people that walk in the door, right, the more people could potentially be recruited to sell Cutco, depending on if we accept them or not. More people are selling our products, representing Cutco, the more profit, the more money they're making, the more money our business is making, and the more profit ultimately the business sees. And also the profit goes back up into the top, right? It gives us more people to call, more names to call, more hours for receptionists because we're busy, potentially higher pay raises for those who are successful. So we are also, although the position is hourly, we're also focused on their performance because, again, their success is our success. So I'm going to cover the numbers. What I explain to them is these numbers are not there to intimidate you. They're there for you to understand how we gauge your performance. If you're doing well, we can recognize you. If there are areas of opportunity, that's what I use, that term. There are areas of opportunity. We need these numbers to gauge your performance so we can help troubleshoot and fix what might be happening on the phone. Understand that these numbers are simply there to gauge your performance. They're not there to schedule. They're not there to scare you or intimidate you. And I can tell you this, I'm very confident. What I say is I'm really confident in my training seminar. And if you follow the program that we teach you, these numbers should follow suit anyway. That's what I say to them. Okay, I'm very confident in what I'm going to teach you. We'll cover these. I won't actually really refer to this after this conversation right now for a couple, maybe 1 to 2 weeks, because you have to learn how to do the actual position, right? So I go through the standards. I say for incoming, these are people that contact us. We should be making 15 to 20 actions per hour. That just basically emphasizes productivity. Okay, 90% scheduled. That means we should schedule every 10 people. 9 of them should schedule if they've contacted us. All right, I do take the opportunity to explain SDE. SDE stands for what? Same day efficiency. On average, we're shooting for about half those people to be set same day. When we have a late night interview, on a weekly average of 30, at least a minimum of 55% of them should walk in the door. A lot of people apply online now, so we're calling them, so we should reach about 90% of those people. Mostly everyone should get email and text. And then if we're calling them, I use the term outgoing just to make it so that's opposite of incoming. That's the same thing as PRs. PRs are personal recruits. That's an opportunity right there for you to explain what a PR is. It's a personal recruit, not explain everything about it, but just what that stands for, okay? We should be making 20 to 30 calls an hour with 2 to 3 set, and a minimum of 35% of them should walk in the door, okay? Some of them will have more questions about it. Some of them won't even ask, you know what I mean? If they ask more questions, it's okay to explain what that might mean, right? I had a question the other day when I was training, one of my other new receptionists, she said, so do we have to qualify and filter them on the phone? Nope, don't even worry about it. You schedule 90% of them, right? Like she asked that when we were talking about this. So again, don't get obsessed with the numbers, but I do explain them, okay? And I definitely show them the recruiting funnel. And what I really like to do in training is explain the cost involved. So if you see here, after explaining it, I remind them, hey, by the way, these touches, right? We call them touches, people that we're scheduling. They are not free. We are either paying for advertising. We are paying you to call them, right? We're paying obviously for advertising as well as you guys to actually schedule people, meaning that they're not free. So on average, this is where you'll throw in, when we went through the funnel once, we talked about like rough investments. I use Jeff as an example because I'm talking about the receptionist here. I think with you guys, I think it was anywhere between $10,000 and $30,000 for branches, maybe a little bit more for new districts, but anywhere between $10,000 and $30,000 just this summer alone to get my phones to ring and to pay my staff, right? That's a lot of money. That does not guarantee anyone in the door, meaning that on average, one phone call could be valued at anywhere between $5 and $20 for the people that actually call us, right? Because we could advertise all day long and not everyone is going to call us, right? Which increases the value of a phone call. I could pay you $8 to $10, whatever it is. I can pay you $8 an hour, $9 an hour, $10 an hour. And if you don't schedule anyone, there's no one walking in the door, right? So that actually increases the value of the investment I'm making. I want to see a return on my investment. So understand that every phone call is very valuable. And that's like money. Every time the phone rings, that's like money popping up, right? And so I really like to make sure you understand the investment that's being made, because that's why your position is so important to us. Because number one, we need people. Obviously, number two, we need the right people, okay? Define the position and then give purpose. I want you to know that without receptionists, my business could not function properly. You really are an intricate part of our recruiting process, okay? And then I go into the workshop. So let's pull out the why people show versus why they don't show workshop, okay?
Hey, Miss Beth, I'm gonna.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Pizza smells great.
Yeah, I think if
If you guys want to eat, grab some food and eat.
Yeah.
We're gonna take a break in about 25 minutes.
So I think at the 20-minute break mark, it's 15 minutes.
Right.
You have from now to 12:45,
Right.
and then from 12:45 to 1 is a break,
Right.
and then from 1 to
Two.
2.
Sure.
I'll be back before 2.
Okay.
I don't know before then, but
Okay.
you guys can dig into pizza before or during the break, whatever you want.
Okay. Can you guys wait 20 minutes?
Yeah, we're going.
I thought you said no. Just like, I'm sorry.
There's a special pizza they make. It's called cheese pizza. Oh, no.
That's special cheese pizza.
This is on Daniel.
Oh. All right. So, all right. So here's why I do this workshop in training. Okay. So what I say to them is, I'll explain. I'm not going to go into every single detail of every single phone call you'll ever take in a 4-hour training or 3-hour training, whatever it is. Understand that. It's impossible, by the way, for me to teach you every single thing that will happen on the phone. A lot of that will come through experience. One of the things that I really do want to do with you, I'm talking to you guys like as your receptionist, one of the things that I really want to do with you is start to mold and shape how you think about the applicants, about the position, and really what it takes for someone to walk in the door. And so one of the most important workshops for me is to talk about why people do show to interviews versus why they may not, okay? And so what I have them do is I have them pull out this workshop, right? And I have them right at the top. This workshop basically talks about what is in our control versus what's not, right? So what is in our control? So I'll have them right at the top, focus on what you can control. It's not on here, okay? But I'll have them, that's the purpose of the workshop. Focus on what you can control, okay? And the analogy that I give, all right, is a student, actually, because many of the people we deal with are students, right? So I explained to them, we have a program. It's like a recipe. It works, right? And obviously, if we don't follow the recipe, it's not going to necessarily work. And so in this position, we know that certain things on the phone work. It gets the results, right? And so we want to obviously achieve the result here of someone walking in the door. The analogy I give is being a student. As a student, if you go to school, right, and you go through a semester and you completely fail a class, right, Your mom, when you go home and show her your grades, isn't going to be like, you know what, Gavin, don't worry about it. I'm sure it had nothing to do with you that you failed that class, right? No, she's going to say, what did you do,
Yeah.
right? Well, here, we're not going to say, what did you do? But we are going to talk about, like, for example, as a student, what can you do that ensures a better grade in your class? What are things that you should do? Take notes, ask questions, study, go to class, right? That's always a fun one, right? Well, I should probably go, true,
Yeah.
right? These are all things that ensure a better grade in class. Well, it's the same thing here. These are all things that ensure the chances of someone showing to an interview. And students, especially when we talk to them about that, they understand that there are things that are within their realm of responsibility or within their control that ensure a better grade in school. So it's the same thing here. That's why I cover this workshop. Okay, and so what I'll do is I'll explain. First thing I'll explain is the reasons that are kind of out of our control. Okay, I'll say before I go into what we can control, I want to talk about the 4 major reasons that someone may not show that really are out of our control. They're at the bottom, the last 4: transportation, babysitter, emergency, and no longer interested. And I'll usually have them put like a box around it, and I'll talk about, hey, listen, if someone's car breaks down last minute, that is something that's out of our control, right? If their babysitter cancels on them, if they have an emergency of some kind, if maybe they get another job, these are things that are out of our control for the most part, okay? There are also things that are within our control even within that. For example, if we set them same day, they're less likely to get a job within that 5 hours versus if I set them 3 days in advance, right? But I just point out, hey, listen, there are some things that may be out of our control. We can't do anything about that. So what I want to talk about are things that are in our control. And then I basically go down the list. And I explain to them, sounds like an enjoyable atmosphere and environment, right? Attitude and expectation. Your voice is really important. We're already hitting on the 5 basics in these, by the way, because handles questions, sticks to the approach. I usually go off on a couple of them. I explain kind of why that's important and how that's in a receptionist's control. So good directions, for example. It's our responsibility to provide good directions for that person. If we just say, here's the address, good luck, GPS says they could get lost, that's within our realm of responsibility, and people don't show a lot of times because they get lost, right? So handles questions, sticks to the approach. I came up with a new analogy for that recently, which I mean, it kind of works. I explained to them, we have a set approach and a set script. We give them the right information, give them the same information. Because if we give too much information or too little information, that could create skepticism, lack of confidence. They could have more questions, right? So, for example, the receptionist's job is to give this information, and then they'll show to the interview to get a full job description. It's similar, expecting a receptionist like on the phone to give a full job description is like expecting a receptionist at a doctor's office to tell you what's wrong with you when you call to set an appointment. Yeah, hey, receptionist at the doctor's office, I'm sick. Why am I sick? Come in and see the doctor. It's the same thing here, right? And that's I love explaining that to receptionists. I know. Okay. I came up with that like a week ago.
Get the entire plot for a movie from the trailer.
Yeah.
Wait, that's a good point. Yes.
A 2-minute trailer.
There you go. Good point. Whatever. I will tell you, by the way, that receptionists, I'm sure it's the same thing in sales training. It's like not the more analogies. You don't want to give them tons and tons of them, but they're things that stick out. When I talk about building rapport, I always talk about Chick-fil-A. I know I did that in one of our training. I think I did that in one of our AGL preps. We talked about how we really want to set ourselves apart from other candidates. From other companies when it comes to looking for work. Well, one way we can do that is really build rapport with them and create an impression that most people don't do when they talk to applicants for jobs. When we build rapport with someone, that's something that most people don't do. Right? Well, it's kind of like be the Chick-fil-A of fast food restaurants. They're still a fast food restaurant, but they're one that's known for their quality of service, for their, whatever the case is, how they greet people, mainly their quality of customer service. So that's different, right? You don't go to McDonald's for like the really great customer service. You go there for like the greasy fries that taste good at like midnight, right? But even though we shouldn't eat there, right? My point is that Chick-fil-A is a higher quality fast food restaurant. So that's an analogy I give, all right? Analogies help them remember, okay? But either way, why people show. Here are the things that we can do that are within our realm of control. How you sound is important. Your voice is your tool, right? We'll talk about that in a second. Speaking slowly. I say great student opportunities. We tell them that in the approach itself. And the bottom one, or down below, I say vector is a great opportunity. And what I'll explain to them is you'll actually decide that on your own. Some of this experience and the first couple of weeks you're with us will really build your credibility. And the hope is that you're confident in what you're doing. The testimonials and the information that we share with you throughout training, for example, these videos are an opportunity to really build your confidence in the company you're working for. By the way, though, you guys are the first people that build their confidence. Okay, first impression, yeah. So I just basically go through them. Same day efficiency. We know the sooner we set someone, the more likely they are to show. So the receptionist's job is to create urgency. So I just really talk about why people show and how that these things are in our control. I think you guys do something similar to this in AT, but I'm not sure. What I explain to them is when I'm actually going into the workshop, I say, you know, we've realized that on average, out of 10 people, 1 to 2 people will always show. 1 to 2 people will never show based on variables. I'm sorry, based on, it doesn't matter what we do, excuse me. But we realize that on average, 6 to 8 people will show based on certain variables, based on what happens on the phone. It could be them, but it could also be us. We're focused on what those variables are and what we can control. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So I just really, I mean, you guys could just simply go through this. You could literally say, here are the reasons people show. Here's what you need to remember. You need to make sure that you're confident, that no one's in control of your attitude but you, right? Whatever it is. Okay. So we go through that. All right. At that point, I will usually take a break, 10-minute break, whatever it is. Depends how long it's taken, but I usually go through a break.
We obviously give this to them and we go over it together.
Yeah, so just so you guys know, I mean, they won't get the actual training. This is yours, right?
Yeah.
But the document, the why people show, that's one of the documents that should be in their binder. You have them open it up.
Okay.
And just, they should be following along.
Yeah.
They can take notes on it. I let them, I know it seems silly, by the way, guys, but for them, it's like really exciting to have a training binder. And it's like, oh, this is mine. I can keep it and things like that. Like they really like that.
Ownership.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's like you can, again, and they always need it at some point, and take notes. I say to them, hey, take notes during your training because you are not going to remember everything we cover.
Yeah.
So this is going to be an important resource for you later on. Okay. All right. So you take a break. Next thing. All right. I have videos as far as live call. Now it says watch new call live. I changed that. I have a video of a girl doing an IAP call. It's interchangeable. It doesn't matter. The IAP is very similar to the new call. And IAPs, they're going to do more of them. Okay. I have an old video of a PR call, but it's a little bit, it's not the same script as ours. So we'll talk about that when it comes to PR training. But for this purpose, here's how I've always approached training. Okay. And this is, again, the ideal scenario. I train them on incoming first with mentions of PRs. And then their first major PR calling shift, I have them come in basically an hour early, or their first hour, we basically add on PR training. Here's why I've done this, all right? And I don't want you to think that you can't train someone just to call PRs, because you can, and you probably will need to. What did you say?
Makes sense. The whole hour before.
Yeah, right before their first, because here's what I found. If you get them, if you do orientation and you kind of get them starting to call IAPs, I'm not going to ever use the word like PRs are harder, like that phrase. Don't ever use that. It's not like PRs are harder. However, they gain more confidence when talking to people who are actively seeking work. So like they feel a lot more confident about calling PRs later on. Okay, for example, it's just that it's nerve-wracking just to make that first call, right? Imagine if their first call is a PR call and that person's like, who the hell are you? Hang up the phone, right? So I try to avoid that. It's not, just so you know, some of that doesn't actually matter. You might get a receptionist who doesn't give a crap about that stuff, right? But I've found that it's just, they're simply kind of putting one foot in front of the other when they're taking incoming calls, whether it's a call. That's very nerve-wracking in itself. And so I try to teach them an incoming first, and then what I'll do is I'll add the layer of PRs, okay? But again, not every situation is ideal. So know that there are going to be cases where, they're perfectly capable of calling PRs right off the bat, right? But I found that that's why I do this versus, I touch on PRs, which we'll cover after the break. But what I'll do here is I'll just show them a video of a new call. In this case, it's going to be an IAP call. The example I have is an IAP call, girl named Melanie Jones from Trey Harris's office. It's a great call. And what I do when I do that, by the way, is they follow along with the approach. Okay. So you have the approach in front of them. Hey, you need to follow along with this, right? It doesn't say this on here, but I'll have them follow along. They'll watch. It's about 12, 13-minute call. I'll tell them before. I'll say, write down notes of what you notice, because I'm going to ask you at the end. It's a mini debrief, if you will. What are the things that you noticed during the call? Okay. Afterwards, yeah, but I tell them before I'm going to do it so they don't get caught off guard. So I have them like paying attention to the script. They're jotting down notes, okay? Walk through new approach with the whys, right? So basically I just pull out the script and then I'll kind of walk through it with them and I'll role play it with them once. I'll do it for them, like they could be the caller. And then I'll explain kind of why we say what we say. Maybe like, hey, remember this during this part of the approach. Remember this during this part of the approach. No big deal. But basically just go through it once with them, as you're going through. Okay. Brief walkthrough of new call on Vector Live. So then next, what I'll do is I'll pull it on my computer. I'll pull it up on the screen, whatever you want, and I'll actually go through the new call. You guys would do it in the training site. Vector Live has a training site. Are you guys familiar with this? Okay. So, I don't know where it actually went. Okay, whatever. Vector Live has a training site. If you go to help section, on the left-hand side, it says training site. You go to that, and you can go through an actual new call with them or an IAP call with them. Maybe since the video is IAP, you would do a new call. Okay? You go through the new call with them, and you just literally, you would like read it with them and type it out with them and have them watch you actually do it. Because realistically, they're going to have to learn to multitask. Okay? So brief walkthrough of a new call in Vector Live. Understand, by the way, that the videos will also show them how to use Vector Live, which we'll talk about after break. Okay? Next one, very, very easy. I put workshop. Okay, so let me explain how this works. See where it says why people show? And I didn't put any explanation other than like what the importance of it is. That's because I actually have a document on it. If I do this where it says workshop, keys to proper communication, and then I have like points, that's because you don't need a full document on it. It's just these are the points you need to cover. That's it. Okay. If you notice after each workshop though, it explains what the value of the workshop is. You know, next, Gavin, I'm going to cover keys to proper communication. This is simply just to explain the importance of how you sound. And you cover these 4 points. You don't need a full document to do it, all right? And I just explain, and by the way, you'll have already talked about this on why people show. So I'm just reinforcing what I'm saying, right? As a reminder, you know, Dwayne, 55% of communication is body language. We don't have that luxury or advantage, so your phone voice is going to be very important. How you sound. So the analogy that I use, I don't know if I explained this, but a music lover here, you understand. You know, a song isn't just lyrics and it's not just music. It's the combination. Well, I guess it's jazz, so maybe not, but it's the combination of both, right? And so what we're doing is we're giving you the lyrics. We're telling you what to say. We're giving you the actual words, but the music is your voice inflection. It's your enthusiasm. It's your clarity, and we're kind of meshing those two together. Okay, so your tool is your voice. Take care of it. It's very important. Obviously, it's not what you say, it's how you say it, and then just redefining what the most important areas are. That means speed. By the way, that is the biggest area of opportunity for receptionists. Huge. I speak too quickly. I know that. I have to constantly remind myself to slow down, right? On the phone, why do you think that they go quickly, by the way? I don't understand what you just said.
Yeah.
You can't speak like that on the phone, Dwayne. Okay. What did you just say?
To get through it quickly so they
They feel that's a good one. They're taking too long.
Also, it's just because when you read at first, you're just trying to get it down.
Going through the motions, so you're just reading it, right? They're nervous, especially when they're new. They're nervous. By the way, you get through it because they want to avoid questions. The faster I go through it, the less the chance I have of them saying anything. That's actually the worst, right? Because the applicant's kind of like, who, what, how, especially with PRs, by the way. One of the biggest tips to PR calling is slow down, right? You're having a conversation. Yes, you're reading it, but you're having a conversation. At first, they're going to sound robotic. That's totally understandable. But like, that's why role playing is so important. The biggest challenge also with speed is you mumble. You speak too quickly, you mumble, they don't understand you, okay? Speed is huge, and they don't hear themselves. That's the biggest thing. And I'll explain that to receptionists. Say, listen, you don't hear yourself the way that other people hear you. So don't be open to my feedback about how to properly communicate, right? So speed, clarity, voice inflection, reminder again. They don't know what that is, by the way, in most cases. Voice, the two things they don't know, they think they know, that they don't know. Voice inflection, some might know it, is the ups and downs of your voice. It's not monotone. The other one they don't know is rapport. Some people like act like they know, but they don't know what that means. So do you know what that is? I usually say to them, I didn't know what that meant before I worked for Vector. Rapport is really the ability to create a connection with someone, okay? Clarity, voice inflection, tone, volume, and enthusiasm, right? Don't scream into the phone. Don't whisper into the phone. Don't fake massive, like you don't have to be what people think it is. Like, I don't want to offend anyone, right? But like the typical cheerleader, right? You're really peppy, really excited. If that's how you naturally are, that's okay, right? But if you're not like that, don't try to fake it, right? It's okay to kind of be down to earth, because if that's your personality, that's okay. Now, if you're hiring the person who has like a person out of a wet mop, that's a problem, right? That's why we don't hire people. Like obviously, you know, you need that seems to somewhat naturally come out, right? So those are the things we're looking for as far as how you sound. I will then explain the difference between incoming, outgoing, again, just to reinforce incoming versus outgoing. And what I'll tell them is from now on, I will reference outgoing as PRs. As a reminder, an IAP is still an incoming touch. That's why I explain it, because even though we're calling them, right, we're not just sitting there waiting for the phone to ring. We're making active calls, but there's still people who have contacted us. Okay.
We can like record the role play. Right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, absolutely. Actually, thanks. Shout out to Kayla. Kayla is my assistant right now, and she records the test calls. You guys have no idea how insightful this information is. Like you can have them do it. I sometimes make it an assignment for receptionists. Don't do it at first. It's gonna make them very nervous. But it's like, listen, this is one of the best ways for you to listen to yourself and to critique yourself, because you don't know how you sound until you really record yourself. John texted me saying, hey, can I send you a recording of me doing a call? Absolutely. You know what I mean? Like there's no way for us to, you really don't hear yourself, especially when you're in the moment trying to focus on multiple things. So it's a really helpful,
All the time.
huh?
I said, this is just
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's
You have
great.
no idea.
Absolutely.
Sometimes I bet John doesn't even need your input.
Maybe that's the other
Listen
thing.
to
You
the
might
call and
think
he'll-
that you
oh
need
my
my
gosh,
input, but
that's
sometimes
so
you listen to yourself and be like, oh my gosh, is that really how I sound? Okay. All right, so here's what we're gonna do. I'm almost nervous to stop this. I don't wanna stop it. I'm not gonna stop the broadcast, but I am going to mute the broadcast because it's 12:45. So we're gonna take a 10, 15-minute break. You guys are gonna eat pizza, do whatever you want. I'm not going to stop it. So we'll start back up in 15 minutes. I'm just gonna mute it. Can I stop this? All right. Do you guys? I did a what?
You did like a half dab. You were like, you were thinking about it, but you're like,
Oh no, the mute thing. I'm nervous for you to put music on.
but it's muted.
She muted it.
I know, but I still get nervous. It doesn't matter, whatever it is.
Yeah, don't be
Ah!
nervous.
Okay, that's fine.
It's muted. It's muted.
All right, I just, okay.
That's like being nervous.
Okay. All right, so it's 12:46. So literally, we're starting right back at 1. I'm hungry.
Hungry for you to let your heart get somebody else.
Oh, great. What?
I actually want to.
No! Turn off the music. It's not muted.
Oh no! No!
Turn off now.
Dang it! Copyright. They'll mute it. They'll kill the video.
Shush! Don't be so negative. I pushed mute on my. Oh, you know what? I didn't push mute on here. I put it on my actual computer.
Dang it!
But I thought that
No,
counted.
that counts though.
It
It was moving. Was the bar moving? Those bars?
I don't know.
You want more?
After Christmas.
Just saying that stuff
Yeah.
never, ever, ever happens.
You want more
so.
cock emojis?
Do I want more what emojis?
Emojis.
Oh, no, I'm good. I can't see those, so it kind of
Yeah, but it's the
sucks.
energy that counts.
True. I know you guys are coughing for me. It's okay. All right. So, is this working? I just want to make sure I want to make sure this. Oh, what did I just do? Share screen. Share screen. Okay. All right. So, okay. So two things actually that I was making notes on because Andrew was texting me, Grace was texting me. Want to make sure. Hopefully, I really want to make sure Puerto Rico hears this. So number one, for anyone in Puerto Rico, Grace texted me that she has all of our documents in Spanish, and she is going to get those to me, and we are going to get those uploaded so that you guys have everything for your receptionist this summer. Number one. Number two, and as I'm realizing as you guys are sitting in front of me, this doesn't really apply to you guys, but for anyone that is on the south side of Florida, right? And I mean, honestly, it's really a question of like if someone wants to like send their receptionist all the way to me. So for Miami, for Boca, from Miami to Boca, basically, anyone who's within that territory. So that would be what? Luke, Kayla, John, and even Karina and Andrew. If you guys want to send your people to me to train, it doesn't happen. You can do that as long as I'm actually running training. So like Gavin, you and I were talking. I mean, technically I have done that before. I probably won't have time to do it this summer.
But I can send my people over, right?
You are not, your receptionists are going to want to drive 2 hours. Do you think they're going to want to drive 2 hours?
I don't know. If I really build you up and build the value in it.
Yeah, well, you have to pay them for all of that time. That's a good question. I mean, Port Charlotte, hell no. Absolutely not. Okay.
That's way.
Here's one thing you could do. Now, if you're going to only show up with one receptionist, it's not going to be really worth it. Here's what you could do, because my rule is this. So for everyone who's watching and are within those areas as well as you, I don't do virtual trainings. It's too complicated. It's just not the same impact. You know what I mean? I guess technically I could if I really needed to, but I don't want it to be a consistent thing. In a situation, my rule is this: if you send someone and you've never watched my training, you have to come with them. So let's say it's your first training of the summer, okay? And you're not doing anything else besides training your receptionists. And then obviously for our managers, and obviously depends, because I'll do a couple of these, basically divisional trainings. I'll do a couple of them because I'm training here for the pilot staff as well. You could send them to me. For the first time, you have to come. Andrew's texting me. He doesn't have to come. He's already been to one of my trainings. I'm pretty sure. Okay. But like for Luke and Kayla and for John, they would have to. You know, there's a couple of different restrictions. You have to be there for the first one. Ideally, you know, on the first one, you could drive them over. I would not suggest you just driving over with one receptionist. It can actually seem very sketchy. So I would actually say it's not even worth it. But if you're coming over with 2 or 3 receptionists, that might be fine. You have to pay them for their travel time. That's the thing. Whether they're coming from Miami or whether they're coming from Fort Myers, you have to pay them for it. But yeah, if you do a good job of building value, that's important. You cannot like, yeah, you could. We would have to talk about it with you. I think it would be more of a case-by-case basis and just kind of where you're at with the situation. For Miami, for Boca, Hollywood area, they're allowed to send them to me. Obviously, I'll tell you guys here when I'm running my trainings. This time, they have to show up with their documents. That's the thing. You have to print out the documents for them. They show up with a binder. Like I can't just use Jeff's money to like provide binders and all that stuff for them. I can't think of anything off the top of my head that I would need to include right now, but I will communicate with those who are needed if who need to know if I'm running group trainings for my receptionists, because I've run at least 2 or 3 of those each summer. Usually it happens end of April and then usually 1 or 2 in May. Okay, and now I'm not traveling every weekend in May like I've done in the past. It's the first time I'm doing that, so that gives me a little bit more flexibility in my schedule. Okay, so we'll discuss it, but I just wanted to make sure Spanish documents will be uploaded online, and then for those people in South Florida, if I can run a training and you guys can attend, we'll do that. Okay. All right, so let's get back into training. So, you know, you take another break possibly, and we are now on to culture of productivity, right? Explains how to stay busy. I'm going to tell you right now, I'll go through the basic to-do list. They're not going to remember that. Really, what I do is I explain kind of like the basic things that they should be doing, and I explain within the list right here. What I do is I take the opportunity to kind of explain what those things are as well, like very briefly. What I found is that I'll cover it, and then when we're actually showing them how to do that, it's very like separate, meaning that they compartmentalize. Okay, I'm gonna call IAPS. Now what do? I'm going to call no-shows. Can you remind me how to do it? They are not going to know how to multitask right off the bat, okay? You're very much going to facilitate what needs to get done. And early on in the beginning of when they're starting, you've really got to be able to tell them what needs to get done and like what really needs to get done and how to do those things. Don't expect, like I'll give you an example. My receptionist, Cynthia, she's been working with me for a month. In her first month, after about 4 weeks, she worked her first Friday, right? I went through everything with her. She'd been working for 4 months, but she had never, I'm sorry, a month, but she had never done everything on her own. So I walked through what needed to get done. I showed her how to clear the voicemails because she had never done that before. Don't assume that they know how to do things. You will need to show them. By the way, the second Friday came. What do you think that I did the same? I mean, I showed her how to do everything the first Friday. What do you think I did the second Friday this year? Same thing. Here's what to, oh, I don't remember how to check messages. Okay, don't expect them to remember. You need to show them how to do it, okay? Either way, we explain it very briefly, but then we cover it probably as we're actually doing it. This is how you call no-shows. This is what you say. Let me show it to you again, okay? So as far as culture of productivity, I explained. The Sunday shift is dedicated to calling PRs because it's easier to reach those people. They're the most fresh. So Sunday, they, you know, at this point, they know they have to work Sundays. And usually on Sundays, it's strictly PRs. If you do not have a ton of PRs when you're new, you can do incoming. But you do not want to set the tone. Incoming is okay on Sundays unless you have no PRs to call, okay? So that's a case-by-case basis. Maybe a Sunday comes and let's say you had a bad launch, right? Shit hits the fan, shit happens, right? And you have no PR. You can call old PRs. Absolutely can call old PRs, right? Post PRs, things like that. But maybe you haven't placed Facebook posts and you call some of those PRs, right? PRs are always dedicated to Sundays, right? But in a case where you may not have that much for them to do, it's okay to do incoming. Maybe you do the old PRs, then you do some IABs, then you go back to and recall the PRs again. But the culture and the tone that needs to be set is PRs are called on Sunday, okay? There also may be times when your agenda is strictly to call PRs, right? So during the week, you know, you may have 3 receptionists, right? On a Monday, you may have one of them doing incoming, and then the rest of them are calling PRs. It really depends on when their shift starts. If they come in at 2 o'clock and everything's done, and say the first person's already on PRs, then they should be strictly calling PRs. We're gonna give you schedules this summer that are in black and red. Red identifies as PR hours. So if they're in PR hours, you know that if that's the hours that they're working, they should be focused on PRs, okay? Other than that, you'll be working a hybrid shift, which is a combination of incoming and outgoing, meaning that PRs kind of fall into line with the to-do list. That's how I explain it to them, okay? There is always something to do. If you're not sure, please ask. Please do never sit there. And that's what I tell them. Please don't ever sit there, wait for the phone to ring. There's always something to be done. If you're not sure, don't hesitate to ask me, okay? That being said, a reminder, if you're doing like an incoming or a hybrid shift, it really should say hybrid, you should be making roughly 15 to 20 actions per hour as a reminder, meaning you're answering like a new call, you're calling an IAP, you're calling a no-show, a PR, whatever the case is. When you're strictly calling PRs, like on Sundays, for example, right, or any other time during the week when you're only calling PRs, you should be making 20 to 30 actions. Do any of you guys remember why there's a difference in 15 to 20 versus 20 to 30?
Well, the 20 and 30, they're calling PRs.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So the reason it's higher is because when we're calling PRs, it's completely in our control to make the calls. Maybe not as many people answer, whereas if it's a new call, they're actively calling us. We're going to schedule. By the way, if we make 15 to 20 actions, we're going to schedule more people versus if we make 20 to 30 actions, we make, that's why it's 2 to 3 set with 20 to 30 calls, 3 to 5 set during 15 to 20 actions, okay? All right, basic to-do list, I just kind of explain it to them, and I try to, honestly, it's really specific here, but it's okay to keep it really simple, right? First thing when someone arrives in the morning is clear the voicemails, right? You guys, just side note, we'll cover this probably in April, but you guys should have answering machines. I don't like it when it's online. I actually don't. I mean, you can, but it's just easier to push play and listen to the answering machine. So we'll talk about that. We check those first thing in the morning. If it's a really busy day, by the way, go through the voicemails again. You can always do them again, like once in the morning, once in the middle of the day, just to clear through voicemails just in case, okay? We clear the voicemails. We do the reminders. Reminders are basically anyone that's set that day for an interview, right? So I go through I go to the 1:15 interview. I sort it by date, and anyone that was set more than a day in advance, I'll call them. So if it's Monday, I'll call anyone that was set Saturday and before. We don't call people that were set the day before. So if it's Sunday and they're set Monday, we don't call them for that interview, but we only call people that were set more than a day in advance. Either way, they're not going to really remember that. So just reminders or anyone that were set that day for interviews, we call them to do a quick reminder, okay? We do that once in the morning. Local student IAPs. I say local, by the way, because going into, well, at least for me, in my office right now, we take IAPs from as far as Fort Myers. So we won't call those first. We'll call those later. So we call anyone that's local to us, right, within, 45-minute range. The chances that, Port Charlotte, it depends. It depends. The island deals with this. I know local to me is within 45 minutes, and most people are local. Most people are going to be local, okay? But we call student IAPs first, by the way, all right? Like if it's a student first. New post-interview PRs from the day before, brand new callbacks, anyone that needs to be called back that has been set for a callback. Per PRs, obviously. And in this situation, I don't explain what all those PRs mean. I say we have different types of PRs. I'll explain them later. They don't even know how to call a PR, remember. So they don't even know how to do an IAP. So it's just like anyone who we call PRs, right? IAPs under 14 days, voicemails, callbacks, those are all things we can do. One quick note on this, though, and then interview no-shows. We call people that have missed interviews. That might be a good opportunity. I don't know, have any of you, either of you called no-shows before? So that might be something we can teach you on Monday. If you haven't called no-shows, by the way, if you guys haven't done some of these things, you need to ask someone in your local office to get instruction on how to actually call them. Because no-shows are free credit. They bump up your show percentage. So they're actually on the to-do list for a reason. So one great thing that you guys could do, I guess an assignment, if you will, is to look at this to-do list and say, I don't know how to do some of these, or I need a refresher on how to call callbacks. I need a refresher on how to call no-shows, right? And make time to learn how to do these things, because if not, your receptionist will take new calls, call IAPs, and call PRs all day, and that's it. And you might lose applicants that way. Okay, because by the way, this, an email exchange that I had with Scott yesterday was the fact that we're setting callbacks and they're never getting called. Like, so we talk to someone and they're like, I'm really busy right now. Okay, we'll call you back. Hang up. They put them in a callback section. They never look because they don't have a set to-do list. You've got, like, I cannot emphasize how important this is during the week to have these things. I put, a basic to-do. I change it every day sometimes in my office, but being able to hold them accountable by saying this is what needs to get done. Sometimes the priority changes. Maybe they could, by the way, they could call PRs all day. They could call IAPs all day. That's the thing. So sometimes you have to give them, like if you notice, I say local student IAPs under 14 days, right? I want them to call those first. Maybe it's just all IAPs under 14 days, by the way, okay? But I don't want them calling a 30-day-old IAP over a brand new post PR.
Oh.
Does that make sense? So you can change the to-do list. Sometimes I'll actually put this like on Facebook. If you're not sure, you can ask me, send me a text. What's your to-do list for the day? I might have one, okay? You could even post it, by the way. No, I wouldn't post it on the group receptionist page because some receptionists would have no idea what's going on. So my point is that you explain this in the interview, you explain this in training, like you go through the basics of the to-do list. But this isn't set like in stone. There might be days when you say, hey, other than student IAPs, I need you to focus on these PRs because this person's doing really well. So there are going to be times when you change it up, but for training purposes, we just go through what the to-do list is and what callbacks and no-shows and things like that are, okay? And like I said, an assignment probably should be to, if you don't know what these are and the details about them, what is a callback? How do I, make sure to ask in your local office? I think that'd be great for you on Monday, okay? Cool. All right, at this point, I cover a very brief walkthrough of the PR program, and I'm talking brief, okay? I explain to them what a PR is, all right? What a PR is, how PRs are different from incoming, the importance or value of them, and the mentality when making an unexpected call. I need to point you guys out. Actually, no, we can stick on this document. So here, this information here, if you go to the last page, okay, PR caller training, it's actually right here. What are PRs? Importance of our business, types of PRs if you want to call it, and the correct mentality. It's right there, okay? That's what you're basically going over. You know what PRs are, right? You know why they're important. They're more profitable. They're the most profitable, source that we have. We get the highest return on our investment. Why do we have them? What are the benefits of them? It builds our team from within. It's smart financially. As a business owner, it's smart financially. It creates culture. People like working with people that they know. They're CPO valuable, meaning that they're competitive against their friends, right? So they actually sell more, which makes them more money and also creates value, creates profit for our business, right? Why would a rep want to recommend their friend? Bonus programs, contests, and work with their friends, right? Whatever it is. So we just explained the value of it. That's if you're a PR, by the way, yourself, you should tell them your story about why. Listen, were any of you PRs? Okay, so Blake is now, he was a PR, he's recommended by a friend, he did this summer, whatever. Here's how he's grown the business, and now he's gonna run his own office, right? So like that's an opportunity that you should be able to share, right? So by the way, it could be your story, it could be someone else's story that's close to you, right? I actually have a testimonial for those of you guys who know Stephen LeMay. He's an old sales rep of ours, started 2 summers ago. He actually did a testimonial where I interviewed him, and he put the video together for me. It was awesome. If you guys need that, that's a great testimonial to play at this point. It's a great testimonial. Okay. So you could also do that. It's just his experience, and that will probably go on my website as well. Stephen LeMay, L-A-M-A-Y. I'll give it to you. It will go on my website, by the way. Testimonials will go on my website. By the way, there's testimonials about me too on the website, so that's kind of cool because you guys can see from managers like the experience that they had, which is a plus. Just creates credibility for me when introducing your receptionists to me. Okay. All right. So as far as PRs, these are the things you would pull out of training. I would say the most important ones are just the value and the importance of the business and the mindset. The mindset. How many of you guys have called a PR and had a shitty response from someone? They're negative. They don't respond the most positive way, right? I don't say that's a receptionist, but we've all done that, right? Where we've called a PR and for some reason they're like, not even negative. Maybe it's just, who are you? What is this? Who recommended me? You have to understand something. That can be really tough. What was that? Sure, that too, right. Whatever the point is, we've all had that, right? Well, you guys can handle it because you've been in the business, right? But imagine a brand new receptionist who gets that, right? So I start to shape their mindset from the beginning by explaining the importance of mentality, meaning that yes, it is an unexpected call. That's totally fine, right? The level of how, not the level, but as far as how the rep knows the PR, it varies, right? They could know them really well, or they may not know them at all. They may have met them in a class. They may have met them in a study group. They may have met them at a party. That does not mean that they're not looking for work, right? And so it's okay to understand, yes, it's unexpected, and that doesn't mean that we can't set them. So the analogy I give is the apple pie analogy. You guys may have heard this before. Basically, the example that I give is, yes, it's an outgoing or unexpected call, so not every single person is going to schedule. It's important not to take it personally. They're saying no to you. They're not saying no to you or what you said. They're just saying no maybe to the opportunity at that moment. The example I give is if I go to McDonald's and I go through the drive-thru, you guys have heard this before, right? Yeah. Go through the drive-thru, and at the end of placing my order, the person says, and did you want to add on 2 apple pies for $1, right? Some people will say yes, some people will say no. If I say no, is the cashier going to go cry in a corner because I said no? No, he's going to say your total is $6, pull up, right? He's not going to be upset about it, right? What is he doing? He's presenting the option to me, and he's not going to take it personally if I say no. The reason they do that is to upsell, right? To provide an opportunity or present an opportunity to someone. If he didn't say anything, there's probably a 0.1% chance that I would say add on 2 apple pies, right? But if he offers it, I might think, that sounds good. Let me check it out. It's the same thing with PRs, okay? And that's the mindset that you want to have when calling PRs, okay? So the mindset, our job is to get the information out there, let them make the decision. They don't know if we're offering them like $1,000. What if at the end of the call I say, hey, you were so great today, let me give you $1,000. They don't know, right? We need to get through and give them the information so that they can make a decision on whether they are or are not interested, okay? That's why we follow the approach. So I cover that very briefly, and I explain to them that their first Sunday that they'll call PRs, let's say I do training Wednesday or Tuesday or Thursday, whatever it is, I will usually do it their first day of PR calling, okay, which is usually Sunday, all right? How to handle difficult callers. Believe it or not, I actually realized I don't have a document on this, okay, which is my bad. I think the only point that is made here, because I find that sometimes we don't address, this is a note to remind myself to address the fact that although most callers are really great, like any normal job, we will come up against challenges on the phone, right? And I'll usually say, and I already know where they've worked in the past, right? So where are some places that you guys have worked before?
Yeah, we've got a call center.
Okay, call center, perfect, yeah. Right? Where'd you work?
Oh, no, that's one job.
Oh, it's your only job.
Yeah.
Only? Really?
Yeah.
Nice, okay. Whatever. Usually you'll meet people who have had phone experience like you. I worked as a telemarketer, retail experience, restaurant experience. Those are very common, right? So what I say is, hey, listen, whether you worked at a retail establishment, you worked at a restaurant, you know, were there times when you experienced difficult and challenging customers and clients? And they're like, oh yes, ha 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 ha, right? Like, of course, right? And I'll sit in and listen. I'm sure we could exchange horror stories all day. I always tell a story about how I worked at Petco when I was like 16. This little 16-year-old, this woman yelled at me because she didn't like our return policy. And I was like, I'm so sorry. Like, I didn't know what to do. And I'm just like this innocent little 16-year-old, right? Realistically, you know, most people are great when you have a job, right? But obviously we come up against challenging situations sometimes. Looking for a job can be stressful. You might catch them off guard. And so I just want you to understand, that's totally fine. It's part of the job. Don't be deterred by a potential difficult caller. It's just part of the job like any job. That's it. And it's okay. And what did I write down here? It comes with every job. And so what I'll say to them is it's really about how you respond and how you handle it. Right? Kind of what Jeff talked about adversity earlier on in opening comments. So just addressing it and letting them know it's okay. At some point, we'll teach them like how to respond if they get a negative response, right? Oh, I heard about this. Really? I'm so sorry if there was miscommunication. What did you hear? Oh, I heard it was bad. Oh, okay. What exactly did you hear, right? Like most receptionists aren't going to respond like that because they don't know. I have verbiage, by the way, on that. How to respond to possible negative responses. Okay?
Beth had an awesome thing about the scam, and I have it.
I'm sure there's a lot of great stuff out there. I will tell you that for receptionists who are new, Gavin, or anyone, that they need to know exactly what to say, or else they're going to be like, and like, I'm really sorry, right? I handle it in my receptionist meeting. I'll run a receptionist meeting for all receptionists in FC. And when I run it, I talk about it. I show them like, I pull up online. You guys could do this too. I pull up online like reviews. I just Google Starbucks reviews. Right? Starbucks. You would think it's a great place, right? Like everyone loves it, blah, blah, blah. No, there are a lot of crappy things out there about Starbucks or Walmart. And I go, based on this, would anyone ever frequent either one of these establishments? No. And yet, no. And yet, think about how much business these businesses do every single year, right? And so the example I give is like, I don't know if you guys saw this, the woman at Starbucks, the cashier at Starbucks who was found guilty of the woman went up to the thing, she gave him her credit card, the employee walked away to charge her. So the woman thought that was sketchy. When she pulled away, she checked her bank account and it said that there was a $200 charge or something. So she went back around and her husband recorded her while she confronted the employee, right? That employee does not make up all of Starbucks, right? And yet a lot of people assume that because of one experience that the whole company might be bad. And so sometimes, you know, that's where you get that like feedback, right? It doesn't mean that it's true. We're a huge company. So I handle it. My point is that I give verbiage on how to handle it as well. But I don't go super into detail with that, but I just explain to them, listen, it's okay. Like any normal job, you're going to come up against that. Don't freak out. How you react is everything. It also says a lot about your confidence towards the company. Some of that is, you know, by the way, that's why I think PRs are so great for receptionist positions. PRs are the best receptionists. They are the best receptionists, just like they are the best reps. Okay? Because they see their friend, despite the crap, it doesn't affect them. It doesn't penetrate their mind the same way. Okay? All right, so how to handle difficult callers, walk through the 5 basics. Here's all I do with this, okay? Walk through of the 5 basics. I have a video. It's super, super, super easy. So you guys, I want you to know that a lot of your time is going to be saved by having them watch the video. However, I quickly want them to know what it is that the video is going to cover. So they have this document, okay? And basically, I just go through it with them real quick, and I just say, hey, real quick, these are the 5 basics. You're going to be watching a video that teaches these in depth from our divisional recruiting manager, Beth. I'll talk about her later, right? But I just want you to understand, these are the 5 areas, explains basic fundamentals of any phone call. They're the 5 absolutes that we need in any call to make it successful. And the way it's set up is, this is the basic, and these are the things that we need to remember underneath each basic. Okay, don't even worry about the magic phrases, right? Here are basically, you know what these are? These are why we do what we do, why we follow the approach, why we create urgency, why we build rapport. It doesn't take too long to explain that, all right? The video helps you out with that, okay? All right, take a break. Next, all right, here's what I would like you guys to do. I would like you to pull out on the documents that Jeff emailed, the receptionist policies document, okay? And again, you know, Jeff brought up something I thought that was very, very true at our during our hiring message, okay? You know, I thought, oh, you know, if you don't, I made the mistake of saying something along the lines of like, oh, well, if you don't have time, it's okay. You don't really have to go through the policies or the basic standards, right? And his point was actually, that's not really true. And I didn't really think about it. I always cover it. But like, you know, some managers, for whatever reason, they may miss it. But yet, from the beginning, we really want to set certain standards and certain expectations. And as a reminder again, guys, these are employees. They are not reps. They are employees. And it is okay to tell them you need to be on time. And it is okay to have a consequence if they don't show up on time, right? It is okay to let someone go if they miss work consistently. And in Florida specifically, it's a no-fault state. Puerto Rico is different. I don't know about Georgia. Puerto Rico has very separate laws. So for my Puerto Ricans, Grace might be able to give you some information. We have to have reasons why we let someone go, okay? They have to do an evaluation with them. But I'm not saying you just fire, like, no big deal. But, like, you can set certain standards, and if they don't follow them, then you can technically let them go, right? Also, receptionists or employees, they want to know what is expected of them. Many people, when there's a lack of organization, they don't know what's expected, they don't make it in their job. This just does it for you, okay? So now, here's the thing. I do not go through every single thing in this document, okay? I don't go through every single thing in it. I went through, you guys need to read it, by the way. You need to read the entire thing. What I did is I went through, I don't want to pull this, I highlighted the things in there that I felt were the most important. And I'll explain some of the things that I think are important, but you do need to go through this with them in training. Like, you need to say, okay, we're going to go through this together. If you have any questions for me, you can let me know. They're going to take it home, read it, and then if they have any questions, they'll return. They can ask you questions, okay? We're going to go through in a second, but before I forget, you guys also, oh no, I'm going to wait. Okay, just kidding. All right, I'm going to wait on PR training. Okay, so vector marketing receptionist policy. The things that I really go through, it covers things like dependability and how valuable that is. What they do if they're going to be late. What they do if they're going to call out. Bless you. I do not like it when people call out via text. I think it's unprofessional, right? I tell them, you have to call me. If I don't answer, you have to leave me a voicemail, and then you have to text me, right? By the way, the first time they test you and call out, right? They're not really testing you, but they're kind of testing you. And they text you, and you respond via text, and that's how they call out. What do you think is going to happen every single time after? They're going to keep doing it. Don't fall for it. Call them back, okay? Now, I tell them, if I don't answer, then you have to leave me a voicemail, and I'll call you back. But again, don't fall for it, because if you fall for it, then they'll always continue to do it like it's no big deal, right? Either way, constant reliability is required. I talk about that. Next page, I talk about, it says schedule is provided via blank no later than blank and blank. So for me, it's schedule is provided via email no later than Thursday by 5 p.m. That's my policy. Do not give them their schedule Sunday when they show up for their shift. Please don't do that. Like that, by the way, they can't plan anything. It's like you need to give them their schedule. So what I suggest is that you put into your schedule a time to create the schedule for the following week. Now, you don't have to do the schedule week to week, but the challenge is if you do it week to week, say one receptionist can't work a shift, you can slide someone else in. If you already have the set schedule, it's harder to ask people to change what they're doing. So I do it week to week. It takes, you might keep it the same. Like right now, I keep it almost the same, but there are little tweaks. So every week, I'll check it real quick. If there's a little tweak I might make, I'll email it out, okay? I like email personally. It's easier for me. The reason I like email is because I don't, if I send it through text, it's like, oh, I didn't get my text. I didn't know I had to work. Some crap like that. Even on a piece of paper. I lost a piece of paper. Whatever. It's that stupid stuff that like will hurt you because they don't show up to work. It's like, oh, I didn't know I had to work Sunday. Yes, you did. Everyone works Sundays every Sunday 1 to 9. Even if you don't think you do, just show up anyway. Okay. But either way, I tell them this is how I'm going to be providing my schedule. I don't really like text, you know what I mean? But it's whatever. Just make a copy and put it in the office, and either way. Vacation plan days off. If you notice, by the way, we will consider but not guarantee multiple days off during the busy season. In interviews, remember, for the summer, we're asking them, do you have any vacations planned May, June, or some of July? Ideally, we're not hiring someone who's like, yeah, I need to miss a week in June. Like, I really want to avoid that if possible. Unless it's like a super sharp candidate, I want to avoid that because that really hurts you a lot, especially if you only have 2 or 3 receptionists, okay? Things to remember, unexpected schedule challenges. Basically, if they can't make work, they'll let you know. The sooner they communicate, the higher chance we have of someone possibly covering for them, right? Sundays, the shift is 1 to 9. It's required about cover this in the interview. Cover this in training. It should already be covered, by the way, because you put it in your ad and you cover it on the phone, and you should cover it in the interview, right? They should not be hearing something that's shocking to them, right? If you have someone who you hired that can't work Sundays, then something happened along the way, okay? All right, I explained to them why it's so important. I explained it shouldn't be new information. It's the worst day to miss and strongly discouraged. Why do you think Sundays are so common for people to miss?
Just because of religious affiliations or
By the way, that you should know an interview.
Yeah.
If they tell you they can't work because of religious reasons in an interview, by the way, most people go to church, but they go to church in the morning. So what we say is, hey, come in after 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Now, granted, I just don't. I technically don't hire people that can't work Sundays. I just don't. Okay. It could be like, oh, I didn't realize, and oh no, the reason they miss Sundays is because they go out on the weekends.
Right.
It's a weekend, so they're like, you know. And what I usually say is, hey, I don't have anywhere near as much coverage Friday, Saturday. People tend to do to start their weekend a little early, but Sundays by 1 they have to be in. Okay. I mentioned holidays in the summer. This is super important. Okay. Holidays. I mentioned it, so I don't have to deal with it later. Okay. Holidays in the summer are Mother's Day, Father's Day, July 4th. Those are our big 3 holidays. Memorial Day, I guess, in May. Okay. The biggest challenge usually, not challenge, but the biggest issues might come on Mother's or Father's Day, which is why I mentioned it. They're always Sundays. Okay. So I explain to them, we are like most busy, like a restaurant or a retail establishment. We tend to be very busy when most people are free. So we are open on those days. You know, if they've ever worked restaurant or retail, they're not going to be surprised. You know what I mean? It's an easy day to reach people. I do want you to know we are open on those days. I will remind you again going into like before the week comes up or the holiday comes up. But, you know, and what I'll explain to them is I'll say, hey, this doesn't mean you'll always be required to work a full shift or on every single holiday. Sometimes we'll try to compromise if we can, right? But if every single person says, I can't work on Mother's Day, we're screwed. You know, it's one of the biggest Sundays. It can be one of the biggest Sundays in May or in June, Father's Day. So I just say, you know, maybe we'll possibly be able to adjust. Either way, we usually find it's not an issue as long as we let them know and they communicate far in advance. They tell you the day before or a couple days before that they can't work it, and you've already put them on. It's like, hey, I apologize, but this was set in training. Let me show you. Okay. All right. I don't talk really about attitude, communication. All I really say with communication, like this is stuff they can read at home. Communication. The only thing I really say is, if you need to communicate an issue, please do so. And then despite the possible discomfort, it's always better to discuss with the proper authority. You are the proper authority. Just say that from now on, right? And I just explained to them, listen, it might be uncomfortable. You may not know how to communicate it, but if you don't tell them what's going on and it blows up, it's even worse, right? So I'd rather avoid that. So consistency and performance, they can read. Proper dress is actually really important. I tried to make this very easy especially for my male receptionists. Male managers, right? Proper dress, we're a professional business. You don't have to wear a suit every day. We do consider the impression made by our staff. It's business casual. No jeans, no sneakers, Monday through Thursday. Casual, Friday through Sunday. You know, I know some offices don't care about jeans and things like that. I just think that if an applicant comes in and your receptionist is greeting them, they shouldn't be in jeans, okay? Unless they've explained to you what's going on, right? Or don't let them greet your applicants, okay? Casual is defined as jeans or sneakers amongst other casual wear, so Friday through Sunday. However, there is no inappropriate, sloppy, or offensive clothing allowed. Rule of thumb, if you're not sure, please refrain from wearing. Next page gives lots of examples. What you could wear, what you can't wear. That's it. They shouldn't have any questions, okay? Language and topics of conversation. Don't swear, right? Don't do it, guys. You do it, your receptionist will do it, because I know, because I've done it before. And it's not great. I always tell them, like, listen, you come in and you drop the F-bomb and Jeff's around, he will have a big problem with that, okay? Internet use. These next 2 guys, hit them hard.
Yeah.
Hit them hard, okay? You are not gonna wanna deal with it later, okay? We have a 0 tolerance policy for internet surfing of any kind. I promise you, you see them doing it, and you don't say anything, they'll do it, okay? So the way it works in my office is, we don't have necessarily, like, it's like almost like a 3-strike policy, right? Meaning that if we catch you, you will be warned, right? Jeff goes in there. This is what he usually does. He comes in, he's like, oh, are you on break right now? By the way, guys, if they're on break and they didn't told you, you might want to maybe assume that they are on break. It's like, oh, are you on break right now? Oh, no, right? Like, it's like if they're not, you're calling them out. You know what I mean? I say if you see them do that, it's like, okay, hey, remember, not on business hours, okay? You want to be assertive, but you don't want to be, like, scary, right? Jeff just scares people because he's a business owner. You know what I mean? And he's paying them. Yeah, he's not listening. It's fine. The second time you pull him aside, it's like, hey, listen, I want to make sure, this is the second warning for you. I thought I made it pretty clear, but if not, if you need to be on the internet for a reason, you need to clear it with me. Other than that, I really don't want to see you on surfing the internet. I'm just not, if there's nothing to do, you got to tell me. If the worst comes to worst, I'll have to send you home. You know what I mean? Like if you're on the internet and there's nothing to do, I'll send you home. I can't imagine that's the case, you know? So please, you know, like, let's just not. Third warning, I would send them home. You know what? I made 3 warnings. I'm going to have to make the decision to send you home today. Okay. I, by the way, never get to that point. Almost never. Okay. But just don't do it. And it's never a problem, it seems. Okay. Same thing with cell phones. Guys, cover it hard. I have cubbies. Put them away. They can't be out. They can't see them. I don't want to see them. Get cubbies. Best investment ever. Just get them. Put their names on it. Cell phones must be in there. If I see them out, I will ask you why they're out. And now if you're on break and, you know, you let me know that you're on break, that's a little bit different, but you cannot have, so what I did in here is so it says you may either keep in an assigned area cubby or a personal item, but if it's in a purse can't be out, right? So it has to be under your chair, away. If I see the phone, this is gonna be a problem, okay? This causes major distractions. You know, if there's an emergency, you can let me know. You can send a quick text or something like that. You need to communicate with me. Other than that, I shouldn't see your phone on you. Any questions about that? Like literally, that's what I said. Do you have any questions or concerns about that? Breaks. These are employees. They have to have breaks. And by the way, the challenge, what I find with managers is that they forget to tell the receptionist to take a break. The receptionist doesn't say anything, and then they complain later. Okay. So my rule, like I'll usually say, like, listen, you got a 30-minute paid break for 8-hour shifts or 15 minutes for under 8 hours. Okay. Most receptionists, I mean, I sometimes will most receptionists won't work more than like 4 or 5 hours at a time. Okay. What I'll tell them is you need to communicate with me. Hey, I'm going to take my break. Hey, is it okay? I don't let them take breaks around interviews, right? They can't take 15-minute break at the end of their shift to leave early because yes, they do that. So it's just like either way, I may not come to you always. So you need to communicate with me. I'm okay with your breaks being taken, but you have to communicate with me. Then I cover, by the way, ideally we don't hire smokers, okay? I mean, there's nothing I can do about that, but ideally we do not hire smokers. You cannot ask them legally in an interview if they smoke. Okay. You could say, and by the way, how many smoke breaks would you need? And they're like, oh no, I don't smoke. And it's like, oh, okay, cool. That's the way you ask it. Okay. That's how you ask it. You cannot say, do you smoke?
Cool.
Okay. And what this is what I usually do in how I do it in training is I'm like, okay. And also if you do smoke, you are allotted 5 minutes per cigarette. Oh, does this apply to you? No. Okay, cool. That's how usually I do it. Okay. All right. By the way, if someone comes in that smokes, you can usually smell it on them.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I don't like them taking their breaks in the receptionist room itself, especially when there are others there. Why do you think that that's important?
Because then the others are gonna think that it's okay.
Exactly. They'll be talking, they'll be not paying attention, or they won't actually take a break. Okay. Productivity, we already talked about. Done. Okay. You go through this, you cover the things that are probably the most important, whatever the case is, and then you let them take that home along with their W2, I-9, or W4, I-9, and employee availability sheet. Okay. They sign it, they bring everything back to you. Okay.
Then obviously they would just read this again when they're at home. Right?
Yeah, it's like, hey, I want you to go home and read that just in case you have any questions for me. When you can bring it back and you can ask me any questions that you have. Okay. By the way, what I usually say is like, hey, you know, you've had other jobs. I'm sure none of these things are like crazy expectations, but you know, if there's any questions, feel free to ask.
This is
Like
a
a
legally
school
binding
sign.
document.
It is. That's basically what it is. That's basically what it is. Okay. So you review, you have them take home, wrap up on the first day. Any takeaways, feedback, questions? I give them assignments. The assignments I give, they need to review over their training binder and the receptionist policies document. They have to role play the new call and the IAP script. You must go home and role play 3 to 5 times each. Maybe just say three times each. You go home and role play these 2 scripts, okay? Confirm the rest of the training schedule, whenever that might be. Hey, good job today. Let me know if any questions. Make sure, by the way, they sign it out. We have a sign-in sheet that will come with the manager documents. I have a sign-in book with a message. It's a message book as well. And right in the front of their sign-in sheets, because we don't do it based on Vector Live. I do it based on a document, which I'll cover in April. Okay. Good job walking out. All right. Next part, Vector Live videos. All right. Now I don't know why. That's why. Okay. So let me show you, because I guess a lot of managers didn't really know how to set up Vector Live videos, okay? This is on whenever you start having them watch videos, okay? The first video is the 5 basics video from me. It's gonna be a link on the website. You'll have the link. They watch that. That's about 1 hour and 15 minutes, and they need to have their 5 basics document with them. So they take notes on it, okay? That's fine. That's one. And then you also need to have them watch the videos, okay? By the way, objective is to teach receptionists how to use our computer program while making calls. It increases their confidence and flow of conversation. That being said, videos do not replace the information you provide. They add value. They teach you how to use Vector Live, right? If they're so worried about how to use Vector Live, they can't focus on actually making or taking a call. That's why this is so important, okay? You go to control panel. okay, your office will automatically already be open, okay? Mine's a little bit different. So you go to, by the way, we kind of went over this, but you go to offices. I don't even know what this is, so you guys want to play with control panel because there's a lot of really cool stuff on there like I didn't even know existed. All right, user accounts, okay? And then create new user, okay? Do not make anyone a receptionist manager, okay? Right now, like when you're starting all new managers, do not make them a PRA either, okay? Don't make them that. It's just receptionist, okay? Don't make them a receptionist manager. They have access to other things that they shouldn't have, okay? So receptionist, you put their first name, their last name, initials, their username, their email. No, they're not gonna have a rep number most likely, and then their address where they want their W-2 sent to at the end of the year, okay? You create that. What happens when it's created is that it comes up in this list, but instead of a green check mark, it will have a yellow star. And once it's green means they've watched all the videos and they can use it, all right? The way that they watch the videos, and you need to show them how to do this, by the way. By the way, as far as watching videos, I would prefer it to be done in the office. And the reason is because you're paying them to do it. They're employees, you have to pay them to watch the videos. I just pay for 5 hours, by the way, okay? It's about my videos about 1 hour and 15 minutes. The Vector Live videos are about 3.5 hours. So 3.5, that's almost 5 hours. So I let them do it and they take a break. So their day 2, part 2 is about 5 hours. You may end up separating it into 2 days, right? You might do orientation and just have them watch my video. Or you might do orientation and just have them watch some of the Vector Live videos. But either way, you have to pay them for it. So and unless you can absolutely avoid it, I'd rather them watch at the office, okay? Unless you don't, you can't do it, all right? You know, some situations have not allowed managers to have them watch the office, but if I'm gonna pay them, I'd rather them do it, okay? All right. Basically, when you start your Vector Live account, it has you set up a privacy agreement, and then it prompts you automatically to watch the videos. Like, you can't use Vector Live until you actually watch the videos, right? So, and then they updated this recently. I don't really check this. As long as they've watched the videos, I think it's interesting. This is not accurate, obviously, for my account, but it will tell you how much they actually spend time viewing it. I show this to them so that they know that I can see what they did. Right? If they skip now, I allow my receptionists to skip through some videos. I'm not trying to get complicated here, so just have them watch all of them. But like the ones that like create and edit trainings, resolve trainings, I don't make them watch it because it's like they don't need to know how to resolve a training or an interview, but you could if you wanted to. Okay. You'll actually knock off about 30 minutes if you let them skip. I let them skip 17 and 25 through 29. Okay. Either way, you know, you can show this to them and say, this will allow me to see, you know, it tracks how, when you started it, when you finished it, and how much time you spent viewing it, okay? Mainly, you want to mention how much time it took them to view it, right? Because if the video is 5 minutes and it took them 30 seconds to view it, something's wrong, right? Okay? But I just showed them. So they have to watch all these videos before they actually do it, okay?
My records would be interesting.
Yeah, it is very, you know, yeah.
5 videos.
That's what I'm saying is like, the other point to that is like the daily receptionist log. I let them know that I can see it so they know that they can't trick me, because then the daily receptionist log, someone will have left 5 messages in 1 minute. No, you didn't. You could have just left a message. You know what I mean? So that's why the daily log is so important, or things like that are so important for productivity purposes, okay? So you set up a Vector Live account. Title is receptionist. Each account has a username and a password. Basically, it's sent. You guys know that because if the email sends the password, then they can change it, okay? They send an email automated. It can be changed. They must watch all videos before they can get granted access. Some managers will let the receptionist use their Vector Live account for like a week or 2 weeks or God knows how long. Don't do that because you can't track their numbers because they don't feel like setting up the account, so they just throw them on the phone and they like don't have them watch the videos. In an emergency case, I understand, but that really shouldn't. If someone's going to stay on as a receptionist, they have to watch the videos. Like they need to have. They're only going to be a PR caller. Actually, you could do PRAs because I think the videos are shorter, but I don't usually use that. So, okay, if you're training more than one receptionist at a time, Vector Live is a really cool function where you can actually set up. Where is it? Required. You can set up a group training. So you can set up each of their accounts, right? And then you set up a group training. They each sign into it, and then that way it tracks when they watch the videos together. So they can all watch. Like you could set it up like this. They could watch the videos, and as long as each one of them signs in, it will track that they all watched it. That's fine. If you really,
like 2-on-1.
yeah, I mean, if you want to do that, that's fine. I mean, I do groups. I did a 15-person group training, so I had each one of them log in. They have to have Vector Live accounts, though. Okay. Let them take a quick, obviously take breaks while they're watching videos. That's why I give them 5 hours, because it's a lot of information to take in. Okay. Conduct a quick debrief. Make sure they take notes and conduct a debrief. Okay. I will tell you this, as far as additional trainings are provided through your DRM, that's my 5 basics video. I also have a handling questions video that's going to be on Vector on my website. Handling questions, just strictly handling questions. I usually don't use that in the initial training, but I'll use it like within a week or 2 because questions are something that's still they need to get the most help on. The reason I wrote Vector Connect is because Jake Kuhn has a bunch of videos on Vector Connect. For those of you guys who know who he is, they are overviews, they are brief, they are not to replace. But if you wanted to watch them, they take about an hour to watch total. If you want to watch a couple of them and say, I like this one, and have them watch it and plug them into training at some point where it applies, that's fine. They don't replace it. Okay? All right. Day 3 or part 3 is observation and role play. By the way, if you notice, I give everything about 4 hours. This is really going to take longer now because of my video. If they just watch Vector Live, it would take about 3.5. With mine, it's about 5. Okay? Day 3, observation and role play. Objective is to show how the job is done through active learning. Guys, this is where they're going to learn a lot. All right? Showing them how to take and make calls is huge. It says every single detail cannot be covered in orientation. You know, when someone calls and says, hi, I met with Mr. Doherty last week, and he told me he would call me back once he followed up with my application, it's basically them saying that you bounce them, right? You pre-screen that you pre-screen them out. Well, receptionists need to handle. Sometimes they don't want to handle that, by the way. Like, they feel very uncomfortable. But I taught my receptionist, Cynthia, how to handle it. She didn't really feel the most comfortable. You may have to handle it, but that's a situation that they wouldn't know how to handle. And that will not be covered in training. Okay? So it always helps to, like, show them things. So role play through the new call and IAP scripts. Taking turns as a receptionist. That's really helpful. More practice you get, the better it's going to sound coming out. Okay? Take and make calls while they watch and explain the situations after each call. This is what happened on this call. What did you notice? Maybe you pick out each basic and you really focus on that basic during the call and say, I'm going to really focus on following the approach and stick to the script. Okay? But again, why do you think we need you to be good receptionists? Because they're going to watch you take and make calls. They are 100%. They're super impressionable. Yeah. Cynthia now, as much as I love the girl, she has this really bad habit that she got from the receptionist that just left me, which was not following the approach and adding information. And I don't know how, and it's like, they're super impressionable. Okay?
Can we do the calls? Can we do that on speaker so that it's less?
100%. Good point. Do them on speaker because it helps when they can hear the caller because they don't know what to expect.
That's what they're going to be hearing.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, when you get tough callers or when you get people who are providing challenges, the best example I can give is Jeff. A couple years ago, 2 years ago, Jeff in his PR kickoff meeting decided to just make calls, right? Called this girl. The girl's like, wait, who are you? What? And it was like a difficult caller. And he handled it. He handled it the way that he was supposed to handle it. That says as much as if you get an easy caller, right? Like that how you react is super, super important. So you need to remember that, okay? Have them take notes and share takeaways. I let them make their first call on their own, okay? I just like, hey, why don't you call this IAP? It's okay. I'll be in the other room. Like, I'm accessible just in case. But, you know, you can have them do it, but they're going to be really nervous. You know what I mean? So I let them usually do it on their own. It's like, hey, unless you really need me to be there, you know, I'm going to be right in the other room. You need anything and you're kind of listening, you know, but maybe you're not. Yeah, maybe you're not. That's probably bad. I'm telling you, you're going to, like, this is what you're going to do. You're going to be like this when listening to calls because they're so bad at it first. I hate listening to receptionists. Like, I love Lori in my office because she has to listen to that. It's so hard for me because I just want to be like, here are all the things you did wrong. Yeah. You know what I mean? But obviously we can't do that. In fact, it's so bad. I can't. It's okay. In fact, that's the last point I would make with this is keep teaching simple so they're not overwhelmed. The thing is, guys, that you can't cover everything they did wrong in their first call. Pick the ones that yield the greatest gains. I talked about that at spring kickoff, right? The things that yield the biggest gains, right? Following the script. How they sound, anything with the 5 basics, right? Even like the question cycle, they're going to get nervous. It's going to be hard for them. So keep it simple and then pick and choose, right? And by the way, find things that they did well as well, right? Okay. PR caller training, you know, again, you've got 2 options. You either have this, right? Or in the documents that Jeff attached, is technically okay, what this is an emergency 90-minute PR caller training. That's what it is. If you were in a super crunch and you just needed to hire someone immediately, it's basically this. By the way, I just did in a separate document. It's basically this, except this has times on it because I gave this to Trey Ketchum actually last year because they were just like, we need something that 90 minutes in emergency. Please do not rely on this. Like, please don't think, oh, this is all I need. This is like, honestly, I would never do this personally. However, I'll give you an example. This summer, whoever's going to help assist in the receptionist, I will train the receptionist. But as far as like last minute hiring, I might need some assistance with that. This past year, Daniel helped me with this. This is what he did. Like on Sundays, for example, if we absolutely needed someone last minute, right? That being said, if they've gone through all the other training and on Sunday comes, their first hour, you can cover this with them. And basically, it's just they've taken some incoming calls, they've gained some confidence, whatever it is. And again, it should technically be conducted before their first PR calling shift. They've already gained confidence in just being on the phone, so that helps them out, okay? Again, you reiterate what PRs are, the importance. You know, types of PRs, you can define them, but they're not gonna really understand. It's kind of like learning how to do calls, IAPs, PRs, no-shows, callbacks. It's like, here are how to do traditional, here are how to do post-interview. They're gonna start off most likely with one of those, so you can cover those, but don't get too complicated.
At the end of the day, PR.
Yeah, yes, but you know, it's important. My point is that what happens is you do this and then like maybe like later on, like 2 weeks from then, you need them to help with rep driven and they're like, what?
Okay. Yeah.
They're like, I don't know what you mean, right? So like you do want to kind of explain what it is. It's pretty easy, right? It's just traditional post-interview rep driven clipboard. And by the way, you may not even have that many clipboards in the summertime, it depends, okay? But I'll just really briefly explain it and try to keep it simple. Just define it, okay? We review mentality, we go through the approach, we go through the objections. Okay, the objections will be a document. You guys should have seen it, the PR specific objections.
Yeah.
We just go through like the major objections that we get, which are, I don't know the person. They're the top 4 on the document, okay? What I do when I explain those is I basically just say, hey, listen, here are the 4, here are the main objections. Objections are different than questions. How are they different than questions?
Objections?
Mhm.
Questions?
Mhm.
Objections, you're denying.
Sure.
Questions, you're
Ask.
inquiring.
Curiosity,
Okay, inquiring versus denying. Okay, that's a good way to put it. Right. My point is that, oh, it's actually on here. By the way, this is on. It's on there, right? Walk through of common PR objections and how to role play. PR doesn't know. Somebody already called me. I'm not interested. I have a job. And can I call my friend and call you back? Okay. Those are major objections. What I do when I cover that is just here are the things they might say. Here's what I want you to understand. That is not always a flat out no, because that's what hurts our set. The thing is they don't know just because they have, for example, so what I'll say is, hey, just because they don't know the person doesn't mean that they may not still be looking for work, right? Just because they have another job doesn't mean they're not looking for something else. So I'll kind of explain the mentality behind them when I go through the objections and just explain to them, like I'll have them as part of role playing. Like, oh, I already have another job. And then just have them review it, right? Kind of go back and forth. So they have the approach and they have the objections, okay? Review performance standards results, right? You know, importance of the right environment, just the importance of eliminating distractions and making calls, not getting distracted, right? Because the more calls you make, the more PRs you're gonna set. It really is a numbers game with us on Sundays especially, right? If we are distracted and we're not making calls, if you only make 10 calls an hour, you're probably only gonna set maybe 1 or 2 PRs, right? Focus and attention is needed. One of the biggest killers of our PR calling efforts is that they are distracted. In my office on Sundays, we separate them. Like we actually separate them, sometimes based on who they are. Oh, these people talk too much, separate. You know, if you have the luxury of doing that on Sunday, that's always great. But, you know, I just explain to them, your attitude is really important. You're gonna get a lot of calls. You know, you might call, I really explain averages, meaning that like, you might call for an hour and get no answers. You might call 30 people and get 0 people to answer. The next hour, you might call 20 people and everyone answers. The next hour, you might make 10 and schedule everyone. The point is that you have to make enough calls, and you obviously, again, are shooting for 20 to 30 with an average of 2 to 3 sets. But it is a numbers game. So ultimately, the more calls you make, the more people you're going to set. We have a tracker. In fact, right, we'll talk about tracking in a second, but the daily tracker that you guys use is super important. You guys should know what this looks like, I assume. I'm assuming you guys know what the tracker is, but I'm just going to pull it up just in case. This will also be online. This is every single Sunday. You guys should be using this. Every single Sunday. This is something I'd make mass copies of. We have it in my office. Every single Sunday. Oh, and by the way, don't make the mistake of what we've done in my office. There's only 4 hours, roughly 5 hours on here. So I do back and front copies so that because receptionists will stop using it after it runs out.
Oh, okay.
Like, you think common sense would be get another tracker? They don't. Like, seriously, it's ridiculous. So make sure that you print out back and front copies and that you have them out as part of your Sunday shift. I cannot emphasize that enough. So every Monday when I come in, I have my tracker, right? And like that allows us to see how many calls are made. And I always correlate how many are made versus how many are set. You know, I'll usually see 15-1, 13-1, 25-2, right? Because I know that 20 to 30 calls on average lead to 2 to 3 set on average, okay? Here's where I explain, by the way, that we don't call PRs once and never call them again because realistically, we may not reach them the first time, okay? So we do calls,
Or the second time.
Or the second time, or the third time, right?
Or the fourth time.
We sometimes do have to call them multiple times. If we haven't talked to them, you never know, they could be interested. So we will call a minimum of 5 to 7 times. We might then let the list breathe, and maybe we'll call them again. We do double tap. I explained that. In my divisions, I leave voicemails, okay? We found success in leaving voicemails in the FC because when they call us back, they know why we're calling, and they say they're interested. Some divisions don't do that. There has been arguments about efficiency as far as you leave a voicemail, it's less calling being done. I have my thoughts on it. Other people have their thoughts. I leave voicemails because it increases interest when they call back. And if I have 15 receptionists in the office and everyone's like, someone called, who called so-and-so? And like, they have no idea why someone called, it creates a major, major chaos. And I don't like that. Like they'll call back, like, yeah, I got a missed call, but we have no idea who it is and why they called. And receptionists are shouting back and forth. It's a lot. So I don't like that. I'll show them how to use the tracker. I'll show them how to mark the list. Basically, just be really, really neat with lists, right? Like not scribbling all over them. LM, we don't cross people out. You know, whatever it is, we write very neatly, like set very neatly, and we don't cross all over the list. Okay. We keep a whiteboard. Do you guys, Jeff? Damn, he didn't even look. Jeffrey. Sorry. Can I show them how to do the whiteboard real quick? I know I'm a little bit out of okay. That was intense, man.
You got 15 minutes. If you need it.
Oh, perfect. Okay, great. So here's how, and I want to make sure you guys can see this. So every single Sunday, all right, when I set up our whiteboard, it's really important that it, because it allows you to be able to walk in really quickly and see what's going on, okay? So say I've got, like Lori, Cynthia, I don't know, Tori, whatever, right? I do 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5, 5 to 6, 6 to 7, 7 to 8, 8 to 9. I usually do like lines, right? And then, you know, usually what I'll do is, this is gonna be so bad because normally I have to take a picture and send it. I actually have a printout of it, believe it or not. So I can actually email this as well, okay? We basically do it like this, and then you know, we'll usually do this because they're in break. I'm sorry, kickoff meeting is the first 30 minutes, right? So we'll do like a little line because they're in the first 30 minutes, right? Every time they set someone, okay. Every time they set someone, they put a tally, right? Another thing that I do is if they set someone, so it's Sunday, when should we be setting them for?
Monday.
Monday, right? So a lot of times we'll notice that receptionists will be setting, by the way, on Sunday, I only give them times for Monday and Tuesday, right? But I explain to them, we should be shooting for Monday, right? So say they mark people off, right? I also will have them put Monday or Tuesday above it, right? Because, and if they need Wednesday, they have to ask me. That's usually what I do, okay? But I will tell you also, if you give it to them, then they have access to it, right? So if you come in and you see that, you know, someone has Wednesday, you may want to say something. It's like, hey, real quick, what's happening where you can't get them in next day? I mean, you're not even scheduling them the same day, right? So we use this tracking board on Sundays, all right? And during the week, I might do it a little bit differently, but either way, on Sundays, you need to have a whiteboard of some kind. Yeah. I have, I feel like there's a picture out there somewhere, but either way, you do set up the Sunday, the board on Sundays like that, as such, okay? How to properly enter Vector Live, PRs on Vector Live. I assume, okay, just because we've had this challenge in the past, Andrew Evans, sorry, I hate to call him out. because it wasn't his fault. It was lack of training. So I just want to cover this really quickly. We do not enter PRs as new calls. I will say that again. We do not enter PRs as new calls. We actually utilize Vector Live and the program. I was actually really shocked when I heard that, because that's a lack of training, and I apologize because that's partly on me. We do it under personal recruits. Okay, I cannot, again, don't do it as a new call. Okay. Anyway, and by the way, anyone can be matched that has either been accepted or launched with us, or is in train. They post PRs, obviously, whatever the case is. So it's very important that you, I don't know what just happened. Oh, that's why. Okay. Either way, please make sure they're entered on Vector Live. So you show them how to do this. That's it. You just show them how to do it. They're going to need their help. They're going to need help their first shift. Just so you know, they're going to need help. Okay. Enter personal recruits. I will tell you the only challenge would be if you have a sales rep that started another office for your office that somehow transfers to your office, you can't do it. So for example, Antoine Schneider, we can't do it because he started in Boca. So he gets entered as a new call, and we match them later. But other than that, everyone should be entered on this page. Okay. You look up their name, right? Or you can look up, obviously it will only be your office. You only have access, by the way, to, you'll only have access to your division, I'm pretty sure, or maybe only your office. Doesn't matter. Either way, there are the names. Once you pick out the training, there are the names. They have to do this. Now, the one thing I need to point out is we don't enter, so during the PR calling shift, when do we enter PRs that are called? That are set, excuse me.
When do you enter
Yes, when do we enter them?
After
At the end of the shift, right? Okay, so I explained to my receptionist in training, I said, and listen, when we're doing incoming, right, we need a computer in front of us, right, because we're following the script and things like that. PR calling, we don't. We have the piece of paper, because we do Vector Live. Even if they use the app, you guys can print out their list. If you use Vector Live, that's fine, but then you have to tell them which list to look up. Like they have to look up that person's list on Vector Live. So this is where we enter. I want to talk about secondary sources real quick, but we have to actually look up their names. So you might say you three are my 3 receptionists, right? I say, okay, I launched 6 people. Here are your 2 people, here are your 2 people, here are your 2 people. They can go over here and they can look up referred by, you put in their name, right? And that's how they're going to call the list. I print out a list out. The advantage to that, in my opinion, is the receptionists don't use Vector. I don't like them having computers when they call Vector Live. That's basically, I'm sorry, when they call PRs. When they have Vector Live in front of them, I feel like they tend to get distracted. It lessens their productivity. However, some offices don't have printers, and it costs money to print stuff constantly. So if you're going to do it on Vector Live, that's fine. But make sure that when they're doing it either way, okay? My point is, and I can't really do it from here. I'd have to do it from the training site, okay? It's case by case. Some of you guys will use Vector Live. Some of you guys will do it on paper, okay? If you do it on paper, basically you call from paper. We have a daily log where they write everyone that they scheduled. In fact, where's my PR call log? This is what you also would print out for the summer. This and the trackers, if you do it from paper, basically when they call PRs, they have the tracker and they have their log, right? And they will write everyone down. And at the 15 minutes at the end of their shift is when they enter PRs. We don't do it every time they enter, because if they sit there and just dawdle along while they're entering it, they're not making enough calls. So I'm not really a big fan of it personally.
So it's at the end of each shift.
At the end of their shift. So on Sundays, I set up my Sunday very set.
How much do you allot?
15 minutes.
Oh,
15 minutes. Yeah, 15 minutes. I tell them, you call until I tell you to stop. Okay, or 8:45 if they don't hear. Now, granted, if they set 15 PRs, they might need actually more than 15 minutes, but the chance of that happening are low. Okay, so you print this out as well, and then they do so on paper. They just write everything down, and then at the end of the shift, 15 minutes before, they enter their PRs. Okay, so that would be at the end of the shift, right? The only other thing here that would break up calling would be their actual break. Sundays, I give them a 30-minute break together. They all no, I lied. So I have 5 or 10 receptionists. Half of them take their break first from 4:30 to 5. The other take it 5 to 5:30. The ones who have the most set at 4:30 get to take their break first.
Oh,
That's how I break it up. Okay. What I was going to point out though is that when you enter a PR, this is super important, okay? Because a lot of managers don't pay attention to this. If they're entering at the end of their shift, sometimes during their shift, by the way, they're going through the script, right? At the end of they just want to leave. They just want to leave. They're like, okay, I'm done. Like, I want to go home. Like, I'm ready to go, whatever. And so they're rushing through when you click reached where you enter the PR, it goes through the script, but like they're not actually reading the script, right? They're just entering them. So the primary source is already marked as PR.
Okay.
They have to mark the secondary source. If you do not mark this, and I can't, it's taking forever, which doesn't really surprise me, okay? Let me show you, okay? This is super important because I get a lot of unknown PRs because managers are not paying attention. I don't know if it's a traditional PR. I don't know if it's a rep-driven PR, a post-interview. I don't know what it is, okay? So they mark if they're whatever. They have to mark the secondary source. So I cannot emphasize enough during training, you're showing them that, okay? And you will need to show them more than once, all right? But that's why it says how to enter a PR in Vector Live, including the secondary source, okay? Role play both approaches and objections. That's how we wrap up PR training before they get on, okay? Oh my gosh, I think that's it.
Oh my God.
Any questions? You guys can WhatsApp for questions if you have any questions. You know, and again, you know, here's one thing I will say, okay? By the way, with the PR training, if you do it quickly or you do it part of training, it doesn't really matter. I mean, this is almost the same information, okay? Oh, you know what? I apologize. I did miss something. Last thing that you need to make sure, this is actually the manual, they need to sit through a sales rep interview. They need to sit through a sales rep interview. It really makes a difference they need to know what they're setting someone up for. You know what I mean? They don't have any idea about the company, especially if they haven't sold Cutco themselves. They don't know anything. So one of the things I really want to point out is how important it is within their first roughly 2 weeks. A lot of managers forget this, okay? By the way, you guys can text me also if you have any questions. The rep interview, there's a couple purposes behind that. And that's the one thing that and maybe watching the handling questions video are the two things that you do within the first 2 weeks, okay? And we talk about this, by the way. Oh, you know what? It says it actually in the manual, the policies document. So 3 things. So you would follow up with training. Watching the rep interview, handling questions video, and the actual 2-week evaluation, because remember, they're on evaluation period. Yeah. So within 2 weeks, you need to have an evaluation with them, which is just simply reviewing their numbers, okay? The rep interview, though, I can't emphasize how important it is because, number one, it gives them a really, a much better idea of what they're actually setting people up for. They get to see that the new recruits' reactions to the opportunity to the product. They get to see the product themselves. You know, and by the way, part of having them watch the interview is having them watch the post interview. Yeah. And the reason for that is because in the post interview, you guys say to them, do you have any questions? Actually, no. You say don't you say to them, hey, do you have any questions for me? And by the way, most of the time, what do applicants say? No. No, right? Why would that be valuable for a receptionist to see?
Because then the receptionist has a better idea of like, hey, all the questions that you probably have are going to be answered in the interview.
Yeah, absolutely. That they make the connection. Oh, they're fine. They got the information. Yeah. It's all covered. Also, because, you know, sometimes people will call and be like, oh, well, I didn't know that blank. Yes, you did. You went through the interview. Just maybe you weren't paying attention. You know what I mean? Not that they're going to say that to them, but like they understand that they saw what was covered. Now, the other reason the interview is important is not because they can take that information and cover it over the phone and you make this connection with them. I always debrief after the interview. I say, hey, what did you notice when you watched, you know, Daniel's interview or whatever? Is that they realize they can't do that over the phone. They're like, well, crap. Like, there's no way that I can sit through and not, you know, I cover 10 minutes of information. I can't take that and translate that into a 10-minute call when it's a 60-minute interview. They know they can't do it. So it's really, really important that they make that connection. They have that information for them, but they know that they can't do it. And they can really say, hey, Blake, that's a great question. When you come in for the interview, I know for a fact that Mr. Crosso will definitely cover those specific details beyond what I'm covered here. They know they can say that with confidence. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And plus it gets them excited. By the way, for those of you guys who are branches, right? The hope is that, you will at some point transition them into sales reps, right? Maybe at the end of the summer. And so you get them excited about the product and things like that. Okay. Any questions, comments, any thoughts? I mean, Dwayne, you've obviously run training before. Any thoughts based on what we covered today?
It actually just puts it in perspective. Trainings were a little bit hectic.
Why? Why were they hectic?
No, I wasn't following manual, of course. 'Cause
Like most new reps, or like most, that's
Yeah.
very classic. Just you don't,
Exactly.
it's not just reps that do that.
Yeah, and sometimes I would have receptionists that would that I would need like right away. Like I need to hire one by tomorrow.
Right.
So
Right.
just putting it in perspective, what like the fact that I don't need to do it like all just
Follow it. I mean, as far as having to do it within 24 hours, two things with that, okay? Because you may end up being in that situation. I myself have been in that situation. It's always great to keep backups for candidates, by the way, like backup receptionists. When you're interviewing a rep and you have a rep on your team, maybe they're not selling a lot, right?
Yeah,
Oh man, converting reps into receptionists is a great last minute opportunity, okay? Maybe not selling a ton, whatever the case is. I know that person can still sell, and obviously, especially when we're like pushes, you're like, no way. But, there might be some cases where you do need to convert someone. And last minute, it helps, by the way. Now, I will tell you, you still have to train them. You can't, because what they're going to do is like, oh, you get on the phone, like, oh, it's so cool, they're nice, and blah, blah, blah. Like, that's not, you actually need, they need to understand you don't do all of that on the phone. Just read the script, right? But it's definitely a way of doing it. But keeping backup applicants, I think, really helps with that. Because if you have any applicants that, it could be a no-show from your training. You know what I mean? Sometimes when managers are looking for receptionists, I'll say, hey, go back through your trainings. Maybe someone sticks out to you that didn't make it to training. You send them a quick text and say, hey, I know this is out of the blue. It looks like maybe the sales rep position didn't work for you, but I'm just hitting you up or texting you because I have a part-time office position. It's a receptionist position, taking and making calls. I've gotten applicants from that. So keep that in mind. Keep their applications on file. Backups always help. And it helps when you're in a crunch. You know what I mean? And I think number two would probably be, you may have to shorten your training. I just don't want that to be like the go-to. You know what I mean? Andrew had texted saying, because I asked him, what were some maybe challenges or like what are tips? He said, I think it's about making the time, especially early on, I would assume, not rushing through it, getting repetition in with your receptionist. Like you are covering and driving the basics. Darren Gardner, you guys know him, obviously. He just won a silver cup, right? Yeah. He's in the process of having me kind of help and train his receptionist manager before, this summer. And I said, well, what are the most important things? He goes, just rock solid on the basics. That's what I want. Rock solid on the basics. Because I will also tell you, the more rock solid you are, the more your receptionist will be. And by the way, when you're not in that room and you have a receptionist who's doing well and is retained and like is also rock solid on the basics, so will the other receptionists that watch her, because that's the thing. They're impressionable for you, but also for the other receptionists. And that's why I teach my receptionists, keep in mind when a new receptionist comes in, like you are an example to them, whether you like it or not. Yeah, absolutely. Anything else?
Well, to Andrew's point, to your point, everything, I think you say you don't necessarily have to do it over 3 days, but I think that really helps because you are throwing so much information to them. Besides them role playing, besides them being active learners, they need time for their brains to just absorb.
It's a lot of information, by the way. I mean, think about the fact that it takes you guys, think about how much information you, by the way, I understand why I have had managers, including Scott, come and say, we do sometimes need people to like train quickly. So that is something that we will have to do. But if we have the luxury of taking our time, take it. Yeah, absolutely. Because it's the investment, right? It goes a long way. You know what I mean? In the last minute situations, I mean, ideally you're not in that situation, but I don't want you to, I'm not going to lie and tell you that doesn't come up. You know what I mean? I would be lying to you, and I just don't think that's fair, and that doesn't do justice to you. But, there's kind of finding that balance, but taking the time for sure to really drive home these things. And honestly, guys, I know it's not scripted 100%, but like if you follow those bullet points, you know how to tell someone to speak clearly. Okay, I'm literally telling you what to say. I will tell you need to read over that. There might be a couple things that you can just point off the tips. It's like, oh, I want to cover this when I talk about difficult callers. So yeah, you can watch my training. And by the way, my reason it's like this is also because I follow it, but like I add little things here and there. So I know it will help to also watch some of my training. So when I'm doing that next month, you guys can obviously watch. The other thing is, by the way, most of the time when I actually schedule time to do it, you guys can't make the time. And then you end up having to watch it later. And my interview, for example, is already recorded. So it doesn't matter if you watch me now or the one I did a year ago. You know, it's definitely worth it take the time to do it, actually.
Question, the interview you do have is with a single candidate.
It is with a single candidate, yes.
So what do you change, if anything, for the group?
Yeah.
So I don't interact as much in the group. I do ask questions, and I do. If you remember from the from last prep, I will ask some questions because I want to see how they stand out amongst their peers. I do a little bit more rapport building in the beginning, like in the pre-screen, and probably a little bit in the post. So they do take a little longer than most. You know, like I said, I don't set. You know, in our office, we could set 20 people for an interview, for a rep interview. I would never do that. I set between 4 and 8 usually. Yeah, I don't because realistically, if I have 4 to 8, and let's say I have 6 set, I'll probably have like 4 show. You know, I don't have 100% shows to my interviews either. Although I will tell you, I mean, I usually have pretty good shows. I will tell you the same tips that apply with urgency for rep interviews apply to receptionist interviews. You do not want to interview them Monday and like set them Monday for an interview on Friday. They won't show. Your show will be worse. Promise you that. Okay, setting them next day is really ideal. But I say the group interview, I keep in mind 4 to 8 roughly set. I definitely interact in the interview, but it's not gonna be as individualized. I build a lot of rapport with them. I will do the rapport section in a group session, but just in a pre and not as long. I just ask them, you know, tell me about your past experience. I kind of have to get to know them a little bit better. You know, if I really like someone, I'll keep them and post them last, and I'll spend more time with them getting to know them. So.
Yeah, this really just puts everything in perspective, because especially I definitely see it. It's kind of like the whys behiand everything Tori was doing. You know, because I remember on Sundays it would always be separated. He would always have stuff on the board. And,
Tori.
You know, yeah. You know, the PR, you know, on Sundays, like, all right, our goal is 50. You know, all that stuff. So it's definitely just kind of like, I see him do it each and every single time, but he would never tell me how to do it. And now I'm seeing it, it's kind of like, oh, okay, that's why he does it. Okay, that's why he does it.
Well, there's a reason for everything that we do.
Yeah, 100%.
You know what I mean? For sure, I would definitely not argue with that. So, Jeff, any thoughts?
Yeah, we have a break now to 2:25.
Okay.
Put a new broadcast up. There's an email that went out with a checklist that will cover 2 hours. It's the last part, perhaps just the detailed version of the checklist, and the calendar of events. And when you're back on virtually, please post at 2:25 and have both your Justin Donald and Preston Dave.
So back at 2:25, can you put all that in the WhatsApp, because I don't know if they heard all that. Oh, perfect. Boom. All right, bye guys. Can I end this one then?
Yeah, and how do I sign into?
I will. Yeah, I'll come there and do it. Hold on. Hold on. Let me finish this.
Can you play Take 5?
Yeah. Don't get us.